All right, here, we're gonna get going in about 15 seconds. Get on going. All right, good morning, everybody. Today's Tuesday, August 1st, 2023. Time is 9 a.m. We're here for a regular meeting of the Kings County Board of Supervisors. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Joe Nevs.
Here.
Richard Valley.
Here.
Doug Verboon is absent. Rusty Robinson.
Here.
Richard Fagundes.
Here. All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Next up, we have the invocation from Pastor Arthur Fox, New Hope Orthodox Presbyterian Church. Morning, Pastor.
Want to read to you from the book of Ezekiel, chapter 33, verses 10 and 11. And he says to Ezekiel, "You son of man, say to the house of Israel, thus you have said, surely our transgressions and our sins are upon us, and we rot away because of them. How then can we live? Say to them, as I live, declares the Lord, I have no pleasure in the death of the wicked, but that the wicked turn from his way and live. Turn back from your evil ways, for why will you die, O house of Israel?" My dear friends, we live in a community that is at peace. I've been here nearly 5 years now, and I love this community. There's a lot of peace and harmony here. It's a nice little haven in the midst of chaos. But I'm sure with me, you've wondered about the last 5 years. Things have changed. I'm not going to get political here. Variety of reasons for that, but it all comes down to one issue: sin. We're sinners. We rebel against God. And what God is calling us to do is to turn to him and plead with him for renewal, repentance, and faith. And he will hear our prayers if we'll turn sincerely to him. So let's pray. Almighty God, ruler of heaven and earth, we thank you for this great nation that my forefathers died for, all of our forefathers died for and fought for. We thank you, O Lord, for the common graces that has been given to the United States of America and to Hanford in particular, to be a place and a safe place at that, to live and move and have our being. But we see you laid a heavy hand upon us in these days. Leaders who are irresponsible from whatever political persuasion you may come from, they appeared irresponsible. I thank you, you blessed us with leaders here in this community who want to do the right thing. But we pray you change our hearts as a nation, as a community, and that you would renew us and send us through Jesus Christ an awakening such as this nation has not seen in 2 centuries. Revive your church and make her more faithful. Please, Lord, bless these wonderful people who serve on this board and their associates, that they may do good for us and not evil. We ask these things through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Okay, next up, unscheduled appearances. Any person may directly address the board at this time on any item on the agenda or any other items of interest to the public that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Madam Clerk, do you have any speaker cards first?
Yes, we have Sheriff Dave Robinson.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Sheriff.
Later, but special guest in the audience this morning, Chief Dave Putnam from the Corcoran Police Department. So I wanted to give him a minute to greet your board this morning.
That was quick. So- all right.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Dave Putnam, may know me, retired under sheriff after nearly 32 and a half years with the county. Retirement lasted about 87 days, if we're going to count. But our old friend Greg Gatska, we all know Greg very well, called me and needed some help at the Corcoran Police Department. So I gracefully took this position, at least on an interim basis, try to help them get on their feet, keep moving in a positive direction. Great staff down there, great facilities. As we all know, speaking to preaching to the choir here, Chairman Valley. So my fourth day on the job today. We're making great strides. Great place to work. We have, like I said, great staff. And the law enforcement community in Kings County is near and dear to my heart. So just glad to still be involved. Retirement will wait. It's in the near future still, but I'm just glad to be here and just let you know that the Corcoran Police Department's in good hands for now, and came about really quick.
Yeah.
And change is imminent in our business, but yeah, I'm here and glad to be here, and you know, familiar face to most everybody. A lot of jaws hit the floor. All these years in nearly 33 years in green and tan, and there's no plans to change the uniform color of the.
You look good in the Corcoran blue, and that's good news. I've really heard about the chief, Chief Shortsey retiring about a week and a half ago, and so I'm very happy that Mr. Gaska reached out to you, and make sure you know what my car looks like so I don't get pulled over. But thank you for your service, sir. Corcoran is in good hands.
Thank you very
Thanks, sir.
much. Good to see you all. It's just feels like home and like I never left, kind of.
Welcome back, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Thanks for doing that, Sheriff.
Next up is Kimber Regan.
Kimber Regan. Good morning, ma'am. Welcome.
Kimber Regan, real estate broker, Sons of Liberty, John Birch Society, and a whole lot of other things in the community. The reason I'm here is because I know that one of the things that you guys are contemplating is adding extra funds to the DA's office right now. We need to very strongly show our support to all of our law enforcement, police, sheriff, everybody, fire departments, everybody that is involved in public safety, because without them, we all have a big problem. They're super understaffed. They're having, it's hard for them to take and collect all the bad guys and then prosecute the bad guys without having the funds to do it. I understand a lot about what's going on, and there's a lot of people and everything that if we don't take and prosecute them in a timely enough fashion and everything, it makes it hard. Anyway, please show your support to them. Continue. I still stand strong regarding that project that KCAO is trying to do out close to the new hotel. I'm hoping that you guys are not supportive of that. Funds that you have, discretionary funds that you have the ability to take and choose where it is sent, please take and try to do things that are going to be better for the community, not just focused on providing handouts for those less fortunate, because if those people that are less fortunate basically will have to stand on their own a little bit more, maybe they will take and become a little bit more self-sufficient. Anyway, thank you guys for what you do. Anyway, we appreciate you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Next is Bob Ramos.
Morning, Mr. Ramos.
Good morning. Glad to be here with you. As a member of the public, it's very concerning to me, public safety. Part of our public safety is the district attorney's office. As my understanding is that they're down 50% in prosecutors. Very concerning to the public. We know that back in June, the local law enforcement organizations did a big bust, as you call it, moving on, and there's a lot of people that were arrested. These people need to be prosecuted, and they need staff in the DA's office to prosecute these people. Evidently, you need to have competitive compensation for that staff so they can be, we can draw the best people here to prosecute the criminals or the alleged criminals in our area. It's very concerning to the public. That is public safety. We support public safety, and we'd like you to look at this. I know you're looking at it, and hopefully come up with a good decision and support that office of the DA's office. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, sir. Thank you.
Kevin Cook.
Morning, Mr. Cook.
Good morning. Good morning to all of you. First off, I'd like to show appreciation for the previous speakers and their comments.
Sir.
Obviously, my name is Kevin Cook. I'm in the DA's office. I spoke to you guys last week. Once again, we also appreciate all the work that the officers and deputies do. We know they put themselves in harm's way every day. But in order to fulfill what they're doing, arresting people, criminals in our community, it's the DA's job to in fact prosecute those people and keep them off the streets the best that we can. As mentioned already, is that our office is in dire straits as it relates to the number of attorneys we have. We're down almost 50%. We will soon be down 50%. We have other attorneys who may in fact choose to leave as well, based on this current situation. We have attorneys leaving. They get different perks in different counties. They're being promised less work. There's guarantees being made to them. They're only going to be in court 2 or 3 days a week, that they're going to have office days, which based on our status right now, we can't do that every time, to every attorney we have. They're also being told that if on their off days that they can work from home. So if you have an attorney who's only in, 2 days a week, they have 2 days that we can, because of our system, we can actually file cases and do things outside of the office by using that system. So other counties are allowing people to work from home, which is something we are not totally doing at this point in time. And of course, pay is a big issue as to why people are leaving as well. Every single person that has left this office is making more money going someplace else. It's a difficult situation to understand. As Ms. Hacker mentioned last week, the law school applications have gone down. The bar pass rate is going down. So there's less attorneys out there. We only have one major significant law school in our community, which is up in Clovis. As a result of that, we have to recruit statewide. We have to recruit attorneys from all over the state, LA, San Francisco, San Diego, wherever. The problem with that is that we're recruiting people who have hundreds of thousands of dollars at times of student loans. But these attorneys are looking at these huge numbers that they have to pay. And what they want to do is they want to get someplace where they can actually afford to pay those, which means they need to be compensated accordingly so they can at least pay off those loans or try to pay off those loans. I know that the board is also in the county is looking at a salary survey. I obviously have some issues with that. I believe Kern County should be included. I do not know if they are or not. We do have an attorney who recently left and went to Kern County is going to make approximately $45,000 or more by being in that county than being here. In addition to be given some extra perks such as a car, gas allowance and stuff like that. Sometimes the salary survey I think is somewhat misleading as it relates to certain issues. It's not just getting attorneys. You have to understand that all the counties around us are also short attorneys. Everybody is having a problem getting them. I know Tulare County is down, I believe, almost as much as we are. They're able to absorb it a little more because they're much bigger than we are. They have a lot more attorneys than we have. We just don't have enough. We can't absorb these type of losses and keep going. Also, the numbers that I know that everybody is looking at may not be exactly accurate, specifically as it relates to Tulare County. Tulare County has taken steps to try to fix some of their problems and retain their people. The way they did that is they have taken attorneys that are at the upper scale of the office, and they promoted a bunch of them to assistant DAs. They promoted a bunch of them to supervising DAs as a way to bypass the issue and in fact give them a raise, give them more money to work there in an effort to try to keep them there. So when the survey comes out, it may look at our top level. DDA is currently level 4. Tulare County is a level 5. It's not fair, in my opinion, to compare us with a top level 4 and a top level 5 in Tulare County, because like I said, they've already promoted a huge number of their attorneys to upper level positions to give them more money. So we take our attorneys with comparable experiences and years of experience. They should be compared to people who are either assistant DAs or deputy or assistant DAs or supervising DAs in Tulare County. Those are the same people that are comparable to the people that we have. And once again, they did that to try to raise their salaries. So in order to be fair across the board, to say these people of same status should be paid or compared the same, Tulare County attorneys are making substantially more than us because they're at a higher level, because of what the county did. I think we should do whatever we can to try to recruit the best people. Obviously, we're trying to keep communities safe. In order to do that, we need to have prosecutors who are experienced and know how to present cases in the courtroom and argue to a jury. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And then next is Grigor Momjian.
Morning, sir.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Grigor Momjian, and I am a deputy DA for the Kings County District Attorney's Office. I have been working for the DA's office for a little over a year. Prior to that, I came over from Tulare County. And I just want to say that what we're seeing in Kings County is exactly what I saw in Tulare County, which made me leave and comes to Kings County in the first place. However, Tulare County since then has implemented some measures to stem the tide, and Kings County must do the same. As we stand right now, by my count, by mid-August, our office will only have 10 active DAs. That's 10 active DAs for 7 criminal departments, 10 active DAs to file cases, draft motions, prepare for trials, file in custody complaints on a daily basis, and conduct preliminary hearings and trials. The calendar deputies will not have any office days in order to prepare for the upcoming trials and preliminary hearings. Calendar deputies will have already taken on more of a role in prosecuting special assignments, the special assignments that used to be handled by special prosecutors due to the shortage of attorneys in our office. And as of mid-August, it'll only get worse. And if a calendar deputy is sick, in trial, or God forbid, happens to take a vacation, the office will be hard pressed to cover that calendar for that day. I just want to make sure that the board understands the gravity of the situation. At the current pace, there seems to be sort of a snowball's effect, where one attorney leaves, that puts more of a workload on the other attorneys. Those attorneys are overworked, they're burnt out, and they leave. And before we know it, it'll be too late to act upon it. Now, what can the board do? Any solution that the board comes up with must apply to the 2 R's, retention and recruitment. Retention, as Mr. Cook said, we need to be more competitive in pay with the surrounding counties. We need to create, whether it's a level 5 position or more supervisory positions if need be. Overtime pay. Most of the attorneys in the office already work 10, 11 hours a day. 8 hours of overtime pay per week would help compensate them for their hard work. It would show the deputies that the county appreciates their commitment to the office and the community. As far as recruitment goes, giving DA Hacker the express authority to hire any attorney regardless of experience at the top step of a level 1. This will allow Ms. Hacker to advertise the starting pay at $87,000 a year rather than the $71,000 that's stated on the website today. This is similar to what Tulare County did, where now Tulare County is hiring people at level 3 with no experience. They're advertising that hiring salary as $97,000 a year. There's a $26,000 gap between what Tulare County is advertising and what our county is advertising. Now, if you're a person that's straight out of law school with no experience, you see one county offering $97,000 and the other one starting at $71,000. Which one would you apply for? And by starting people at the $87,000 salary, it wouldn't affect the budget much. As Mr. Cook said, many experienced attorneys have left the office in the last 6 months to a year. We can redistribute those funds to the new hires who need the incentive to come over to our office that is over 50% understaffed. Now, I commend the county for the new down payment assistance program that was just announced. I think that'll go a long way in attracting potential employees to our office. Now we need more of that kind of thinking to accomplish the 2 R's, retention and recruitment, in order to help our office prosecute crimes and keep the community safe. Thank you.
Sir, can I ask you a question? Are you a member of the Prosecutors Association?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker we have is Jason Leonidas.
Good
Morning,
morning,
sir.
everybody. My name is Jason Leonidas. I'm a deputy district attorney here in Kings County. I am one of the individuals that is leaving this county. My start date is in September. I've been practicing criminal law both as a former DA in Tulare County and as a criminal defense attorney. I started practicing criminal law, I believe, in 2000. I've left for a more lucrative job. I want the board to understand what's happening in this state. As Mr. Cook has addressed many of the points, what you folks need to understand is not only are there less people going to law school, less people passing the bar, there's less people that want to be prosecutors, and there's less people that will actually come to a county like this in its location to be a prosecutor. There has to be an attraction to bring people to this county. Law enforcement is, you can consider law enforcement as two ends of the spectrum. You have the front end of the spectrum where you have your officers making the arrests, and then you have the back end, which is us. We're the ones that prosecute the criminals that are arrested. We're the ones that are in charge of the punishment, getting it done. We need both, all right? Without one, you don't have the other. So keep that in mind when addressing these issues, that every county in the state has less and less people that they can get in to be prosecutors. So you need to do something to bring people in, because the worst thing that's going to happen is if you hit critical mass where this office doesn't have enough prosecutors to fulfill the responsibility of keeping the community safe. Thank you.
Sir, do you mind, thank you for your comments. Do you mind if I ask you, because we don't get to do exit interviews, you mind giving us the reason why you're leaving? You don't have to, I know it's personal,
Money.
but helpful.
Money.
Money? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Anybody else?
And then Vicente Reyes.
Morning, Mr. Reyes.
Morning, members of the board. My name is Vicente Reyes. I'm a deputy district attorney in Kings County. I'm from Tulare County, born and raised. Went to Fresno for college and then to law school, San Joaquin. I'm from the Valley. I live in the Valley. I care about the Valley. I worked in Tulare County with Grigor Momjian, actually. When I was working there, I actually knew people here in Kings County. So they introduced me to Kings County and the benefits of Kings County. And I chose to make a move to Kings County at that time, 2019. It was beneficial because salaries were competitive at that time. Since then, things have changed. Tulare County has ramped up whatever they can do to attract people because they know that there's not a lot of homegrown attorneys choosing to stay in the Central Valley. So they know that recruitment is a big thing for them. So they've ramped up their recruitment. Kings County has not. So I was thankful when Grigor chose to come over here. It was beneficial for him at the time, but like he said, it's not anymore. Recruitment is a very big thing. Things have to be done to recruit what we call transplants, people that are not from the area to come here, work here, and choose to live and stay, to have families here. I've known people in Tulare County who were transplants who established seeds, grew roots, and chose to stay in Tulare County to have families. That can happen here. I live in Tulare County, I commute here. It can happen, but you need to be able to attract those people to stay here. I have friends and colleagues who are choosing to leave Kings County for better opportunities. Some choosing to commute to Fresno or Kern County, even though they may live in Kings or Tulare County. So I am willing to commute from Tulare County, but recruitment needs to be a key issue that the board needs to consider. High paying or I guess adequate pay in comparison to the other counties. The other counties see that it's hard to retain attorneys. So they've done things to make it more enticing to not only attract people who are experienced, but also to recruit new attorneys who they can groom to become experienced attorneys. Kings County needs to act to get this done, in order to keep people here and to recruit people and groom people to become experienced attorneys and would want to stay here. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all the speaker cards I have.
Is there anyone that'd like to speak that did, it's okay if you didn't do a speaker card? Is there anyone that'd like to come on?
Something really fast. I know, good morning, board. I have been here and addressed you a couple of weeks ago. I just want to say,
Can you say your name, please?
yes, Randall Harper. I'm a minors advocate attorney 4 here in Kings County. I am part of the prosecutors union. Unfortunately, I'm the only attorney in my office that does the county defense work for all minors that are prosecuted here in the county. I have been collectively an employee of Kings County for 11 years. I was first at the DA's office. I want to mirror everything they're saying. I just want to make sure that the board understands that this is across all attorney positions, not just the district attorney's office. Again, my office only has one of me and then my supervisor who does the dependency side. So, but it is correct what they're all saying. Attorneys are getting offered more money other places because there just aren't enough of us going out for jobs. When I got out of law school, you really had to be the best and you had to fight with hundreds of people going for that one position. And it's just not like that anymore. So there have been some things that I know have been approved that have benefited only the DA's office, and they deserve that. I just want the board to be mindful that it's attorneys in every attorney position here in the county are faced with the same things going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the board. Carolyn Lees, thank you for letting me the opportunity to come up and speak. I do want to commend the Board of Supervisors for all the efforts that you guys have done for the District Attorney's Office to date. I do believe that those efforts are showing some positive rewards. We did receive 2 applicants last week for the Deputy District Attorney's Office, and they were for yesterday. I also want to point out some of the things that, you know, we are doing in terms of the recruitment and retention advisory committee. We are meeting with them to discuss what to do with the 6 million ARPA funds, as well as we have worked with the department in terms of reorganization. We do realize that there's some things that we need to do, but that's going to take time for us to do that reorganization, and it is on our priority list to do that, as well as the meet confer process that's required to do with the association. I have not been reached out further than other than the side letter agreement that we've had, so we will be looking forward to them reaching out to us again to continue conversations. I also want to point out that one of the things that was mentioned was our recruiting for the level 1. The district attorney's office did come in and you guys did approve them to hire at step 5 of every level as long as they qualified for the level. So right now we are recruiting at level 1 at the step 5 rate, as well as with a $5,000 retention bonus for the next 3 years. So that does put us pretty competitively. I believe it's around $89,000 annually. So we're pretty close to that Tulare County starting rate. So I just wanted to point out those efforts that we are doing, that the fact that we got 2 applicants last week does show that we are making efforts to get where we need to be. So I want to thank you, the board. Thank you.
Thank you for the good news, if you don't mind. I got a question for you. So like the issue of the Prosecutors Association and a DA hacker, for that fact, asked for prosecutors to have the ability to work from home X amount of days during the week. Is that something that the board could agendize without going through union negotiations, or is that a meet and confer issue where the Prosecutors Association have to come to the bargaining table and one, ask for it, because it doesn't sound like they've asked for it, besides some comments at the podium starting today, to get there? That's a meet and confer process. Yes or no?
We are actually, we've already given, based on the board's direction for the department to provide teleworking to their department. My understanding is that's already been offered to employees and that they are able to request that telework as of, I think it was several weeks ago. that was implemented. So they have the ability to do teleworking, as well as the summer program was also offered for the 980 flex schedule to close at noon on Friday. My understanding was that the association wasn't interested in that, but they're more interested in the telework, which has been offered to them as well. So thank you for bringing that up, because yes, that's an offered benefit to them already.
Okay, so just for clarity for the public, if prosecutors want to work from home, there's nothing even needs to come forward to the board at this time.
No, sir, that's already been offered to the department to allow their employees to telework.
Thank you. And then the second thing is, I've got some comments on the negative side to, I mean, the board very quickly went from, I don't even remember if it was like 450,000 in recruitment bonuses to 5 or 6 million in recruitment bonuses in a matter of 2 weeks. That was over a month and a half ago. And so at that point, the board was being told by DA Hacker every Tuesday morning that recruitment and retention money would help move this situation along. So in 2 weeks, the board gets it done. But now when that happened, I was assuming, okay, we're going to give a $15,000 recruitment bonus or retention bonus, that's one check, a lump sum. So some of the negative feedback that I'm getting is, hey, this money's getting spread out paycheck to paycheck. What's $150 really going to do to recruit or retain somebody? But to get that, comment to me, and I'm saying me, just speaking for myself, I'm sure some of the board has heard it too, but that's an issue that didn't even come to the board, right? That's a union issue, an association issue, and the associations worked with you and said, we don't want a one lump sum payment. We want it spread out. Is that right?
Correct. That is what was negotiated and agreed to at the table for the side letter agreement, was to do it per pay period. And it was looked at as a recruitment and retention effort. One of the issues that have been brought up with lump sums is that it's if you're getting the 5,000 that was agreed upon for 3 years, that it would be a huge tax issue. So being spread out, it's not as bad. So
Yeah, see, a tax issue, but now it's a tax issue. First, it was a recruit and retention issue. So then the board does that, then the end zone gets pushed back another 15 yards. So all I'm saying is that if there is an issue on if people want the lump sum, I would like for that opportunity to still be there. Why does it have to be uniform? Why can't somebody say, no, I'll take the lump sum versus spread out? And if you need the board to do some kind of language to allow that, or if you could get it done at your level, if it's a meet and confer issue that doesn't even need to come to us, then I would ask that that's where we get, because it's frustrating to think, whoa, got a pat on the back, we did a good job, we moved swiftly, and then it's still an issue.
the meet and confer process did include us meeting with the association on the proposed language in the side letter, which included a pay period issue of that 5,000 per year. It was ratified by the membership and it was approved. So that was approved by the membership based on the ratification of the membership. So to undo it, I mean, we could, but to do it based on a preference, whether one person wants to do a lump sum or I believe we need to do it uniformly. And the way it was done by a ratification by this association. So that's why it's really confusing to me to hear the complaints when it was met and conferred on. The association ratified it and we took it to the board for approval. So if we go back to doing lump sums, the only issue is you give a lump sum and they can resign the next day. And so part of this concept was a retention to keep them here for the next 3 years on a retention.
But if I'm in year 12 and I'm a prosecutor and at year 15, there's 15,000 waiting for me. Okay, so now I do 3 years, I'm at year 15, I get $15,000 retention bonus. So what if I leave the next day? You kept me here for 3 years on that retention. That's the way I look at it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But the board doesn't oversee the DA's office. Okay, DA Hacker is a duly elected official, just like us. She needs to have the plan and to come here for the board on anything that's relative. If not, from her elected status, this is on her shoulders. She has a term, and if she doesn't do a good job, then the people will vote whether to keep her or not. the fact that it's being highlighted, I don't want the public to feel like it's highlighted on the Board of Supervisors. Now, this is the platform and the venue for people to come, and I'm thankful that Prosecutors Association are now coming. I appreciate that, because now I can hear from them, because even when you're talking, I'm seeing some heads shaking in the back on some things that you're saying may be correct or not correct. And I think the board, if this is going to be highlighted every Tuesday morning, the board needs to be kept in the loop, made more aware. I appreciate you come to the podium, let the public know what is in our jurisdiction or what's not, because it's not fair for the Board of Supervisors if this spin starts coming publicly that we're holding it up, okay? Because the sheriff has the same issue. Sheriff doesn't come to the podium and say, you're not letting me do my job. The sheriff has a job to do. He's got a budget to do. He's leading DAs, DSA. I've rarely seen them come and conflict with him on, he's asking for monies for more positions. Last week, DA Hacker was on the agenda to get 2 more lawyers. We could have got them. But Prosecutors Association sent word that they didn't want that to happen like that. All right. So it's frustrating, and that's fine. We're here to work together, but it's not solely on the Board of Supervisors. We got a job to do. If we don't do it, we get booted out of office. This is DA Hacker's. You know, so the leadership, she needs to come with that and move forward. And if it's conflict with the prosecutors, that's between her and the prosecutors, not the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Marie Waite, Child Support Services Director, and I just want to echo what was said by the minors advocate. We have attorneys also, and when represented by the prosecutors unit, and whatever we do for one attorney group, we should really be doing all, because we want to retain that talent here. So please do look at all attorney classifications when we do any changes in compensation, bonuses, retention efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Morning, DA Hacker.
My ears were burning.
Yes, so are ours for the last 30 minutes.
I'm certain of that. And what I did want to bring to your attention was this last week, the board had asked me to table the matters in hiring independent contractors. And we agreed to do so. I did have an opportunity to speak with the prosecutors union on Friday afternoon. And part of the issue that they wanted to bring to the board's attention, as well as to mine, is that they believe that since we are down so many people, they're getting paid paid on a basis of one attorney when they're really doing the work of 2 or 3.
If I may interject, I think that this discussion has gone down a road where we're actually entertaining what should be an agenda item. If we're going to entertain a contract, my recommendation is that the board request that it be brought back next week for further discussion and properly agendized.
And I appreciate that, but could I ask you this? It's the DA gets her time at the podium. I don't know how it's fair to her if 5 people came and spoke that now she can't speak. I don't see why she doesn't get the opportunity.
It's not the DA specific. It's that we're now veering into a topic of contracts. This discussion has gone so far afield from just mere public comment that I have to advise that I believe we're in violation of the Brown Act. And so my recommendation is to bring it back properly agendized.
Okay. Well, can the DA speak and no one will ask questions or comments? Just let the DA get her schedule, her time at the.
Mr. Chairman, we do have a presentation that we invite all prosecutors and everyone listening here to present. There will be an opportunity at that time. It is a study session. And I believe if she has any comments in regards to the DA request, it could be made at that time.
Okay. Madam DA, I'm in support of you being able to speak, but I'm going to go with council's recommendation right now, and then feel free to please come up during the time that CEO Martinez has indicated. Is that okay?
May I make just one comment?
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
the chairman have brought up a fact that this is really falling in my lap. And what I wanted to say is that this is an issue that everybody should be involved in. And I encourage not only just this board, as well as county council and administration and the union to work together, because we can solve this problem together. But it does not get solved when everybody's pointing fingers at each other. So that's what I would want to do, is invite this board as well as the administration and the union to solve this problem, because it's Kings County's safety at risk.
Okay, thank you, madam. Okay, anybody else? All right, let's move forward. Okay, that takes approval of the minutes. Item A, report out of closed session for regular meeting from July 25th, 2023. Council, anything?
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Item B, approval of the minutes for regular meeting of July 25th, 2023. Chair, entertain a motion. Motion by Fagundes, second by Neves. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Rusty Robinson.
Yes.
Richard Fagundes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. 4 in favor, 1 absent. Item passes. 2 items under consent. Chair will entertain a motion.
Neves moves as presented.
Motion by Neves, second by Robinson. Madam Clerk?
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Rusty Robinson.
Yes.
Richard Fagundes.
Thank you. Item passes 4 in favor, 1 absent. Move on to regular agenda items. We have 2 items. First one comes from Child Support Services. Morning.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Marie Waite, Kings County Child Support Services Director. We are present today to request that August 2023 be proclaimed as Child Support Awareness Month in Kings County. The Department of Child Support Service selects a theme annually, and the 2023 Child Support Awareness Month theme is Different Wants, Different Needs, One Shared Goal. Child Support Services recognizes that families have different wants and needs for their children, but all have the same shared goal: to see those children thrive. We have 5 representatives from the department to present this morning and showcase how we use our values to exemplify this year's theme. I would like to introduce Supervising Attorney Richard Cleaver.
Morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Board members. My name is Richard Cleaver. I am the supervising attorney for Kings County Child Support. I'm here to provide the board with some facts regarding our office. In the 2021-22 federal fiscal year, Kings County Child Support Services served 17,032 participants. Of those, 8,748 of those were being children. We collected $9,977,769 in child support, $5,171 in arrears, of which 92% of those cases had a child support order in place. I'm happy to say that our 43 members have a combined service years of 509, of which 13 of those have 20 or more in our office. We have a committed team that is focused on seeing children thrive. I would like to say that I have a wonderful boss in Ms. Wade. She provides a lot of good instructions. She helps us be a better team, a better office. And I've been practicing law for 25, 26 years. And I have to say, she's the best boss I've ever had. Thank you.
Nice comment.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Laura Taylor. I am a lead for our department. I want to highlight our education. Our department participated in the positive affirmations training. This training was beneficial for personal growth of our staff. The training demonstrated how personal positivity can benefit yourself and in turn benefits others you interact with. This helps staff provide excellent customer service by having empathy for our customers. Part of our department's mission, vision, and values is to provide access to programs that positively impact families. Our staff educates the community on the programs that our department has to offer, as well as other resources that are available countywide. This goal is better met when provided with empathy and a positive outlook for the customer. Using positive language can be an effective tool for our staff to enhance customer satisfaction and loyalty, reduce frustrations, as well as increase confidence and professionalism. It can also help to build rapport and trust while resolving issues and providing solutions. This training allowed us to better understand ourselves and our teammates, which in turn allows us to better serve our customers. Up next, we have Kim Eggert, our Assistant Director of Child Support Services. Thank you.
Good morning, good morning. Welcome to August. I'm going to talk about relationships and specifically Youth and Government Day. Youth and Government Day stands out as an accomplishment for our department in Kings County, who facilitates the event. Glad it was brought back. One of the Child Support Department values is relationships, a desire to develop and maintain healthy and trustworthy partnerships by building connections. Youth and Government Day helps to develop this partnership while also creating an awareness in our youth about how their county functions and how we assist its citizens in the community. Youth and Government Day can inspire future leaders to become Kings County employees. My assigned student has excitedly reached out to me to inquire about job openings, which is a great plus, and has now started assisting her brother by sharing those opportunities available through county employment. Last but not least, we have Shaka Jones, Child Support Supervisor.
Morning.
Good morning. Hello, all. My name is Shaka Jones. I'm a child support supervisor. I've been with the department for 24 years. The department's mission is to promote brighter futures for our children by helping families provide consistent financial and medical support. One of our department's mission's value is to nurture within the department's program's parameters, maintain integrity, display empathy, and remain accountable to the public. We have a responsibility and a purpose to serve the children of our community beyond establishing and enforcing child support. One of our outreach programs that we participate in is the annual backpack drive. We partner with our local Salvation Army to assist with collecting backpacks and school supplies for the children in our community. This year, we collected a total of 826 supplies for the backpack drive. I wasn't going to give you numbers, but the numbers were so great I had to share. We collected a total of 50 backpacks with supplies that included 141 notebooks, 131 glue sticks, 126 boxes of crayons, 104 boxes of markers, 54 folders, 51 boxes of colored pencils, 42 packs of pencils, 34 pencil boxes, 32 packs of erasers, 20 packs of pens, 19 pencil sharpeners, 15 packs of scissors, and 7 rulers to fill each backpack. So that's a great accomplishment for our office, tons of supplies for these children. In addition, several of our employees will be attending this event that will be held August 11th from 9 to 11:30 at the Salvation Army to share child support resources and provide games for the children to play and win prizes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have such a great team. It's an honor to be leading them. With this, we respectfully request that your board adopt a proclamation declaring August 2023 as Child Support Awareness Month. The resolution has been reviewed and approved by County Council. I'm available for any questions.
All right, thank you. Sounds like you and your team are doing a great job. Appreciate it. Thank you. Any comments or questions from the board?
Nev seconds.
We had a motion by Facundo, a second by Robinson. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Rusty Robinson.
Yes.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
All right, item passes 4 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you. Next item comes from administration. Good morning, Mr. Cruz.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good morning. Domingo Cruz, one of the administrative analysts in the administrative office. So this morning, I'm requesting that your board adopt a resolution ratifying the county's health officers' continuing declaration of a local health emergency due to floodwater contamination and vector-borne illness issued on July 27, 2023, and continue to declare a local emergency due to floodwater contamination and vector-borne illness caused by recent flooding in Kings County. So California has experienced severe storms this winter and spring, causing significant flooding in the Tulare Lake Basin. On March 1st, 2023, the governor of California proclaimed a state of emergency to 47 counties because of the winter storms that struck California beginning in February 2023. On March 9th, 2023, the president approved a presidential emergency declaration related to the storms and the flooding in Tulare Lake Basin.
So the Kings County Health Officer still determines that a significant threat to public health exists due to hazardous waste resulting from flooding, the presence of contaminated floodwater, the risk of infectious diseases, and the potential for vector-borne illnesses. An initial declaration from the county health officer was issued on May 31st, 2023, and ratified by your board on June 6, 2023. So the board is being requested to consider continuing proclaiming a local health emergency for Kings County. If approved by your board, the proclamation will be forwarded to the State Office of Emergency Services. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any question that you may have. And I respectfully request that your board adopt a resolution ratifying the county health officer's continuing declaration of a health emergency due to floodwater contamination and vector-borne illness issued on July 27, 2023, and continue to declare a local emergency due to floodwater contamination and vector-borne illness caused by recent flooding in Kings County. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I open it up, I want to ask, are you asking for this resolution based on potential or based on the fact that there's current contamination in the floodwater?
This is based on the current contamination.
So now there is, all right, when was the last test? And what do we find in the test?
It's potential.
Potential.
Hi, it's Rosemary Rand, Director of Public Health. It's actually potential contamination. The water is still in Tulare Lake is still consistent with what it was in May. High E. coli, high coliforms, meaning a lot of fecal content in the water. Obviously recommending people not be in the water. However, it's more preventative as well as mosquito abatement, although we've identified 13 mosquito pools. Summer West Nile virus season doesn't end until mid-September. So it's all preventative and potential.
Okay. Well, you know why I'm asking, because you and I were on a phone call when we passed this back in May.
Yes.
And so just based off the fact that it's still potential and not current, because I got some negative feedback from some ag folks in my district, very close to the floodwaters. And so due to the fact that there isn't any current contamination, which is, I think, the way the public receives this when they see the headline, I'm going to be a no vote on that, just based on an ag standpoint. It puts a spotlight on them, and another challenge that they don't need during this time. And so I just want to put that out there and let the board know there was some pushback on that last action that we took. And I voted yes too, because I saw it, I read it, I took it as current contamination. But the potential is something different, and I can't support today. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Have there any been sightings of the alligators out there?
No. Although we have been, Cal OES and our Office of Emergency Services met with Fish and Wildlife, California Fish and Wildlife, who are monitoring the waterfowl out in the lake area and monitoring them for any contamination and any illnesses. Any ill birds will be rehabbed at Kern Wildlife Refuge. So they're also monitoring the situation. The declaration isn't really so much saying there's something, it's just being able to cover things in case there is something that happens.
And I'd like to add that an emergency can be declared for an imminent threat as well as harm being currently suffered.
No, thank you. And thank you for expressing some more clarification on it. This time, let me ask this. Since the first time we adopted the resolution, was there any environmental groups that contacted your office in regards?
Not. The only concern was the one farmer who had expressed concerns. We have not gotten any. We have had some media requests wanting to know what's in the water. I've been consistent because nothing new is in the water.
Yeah, and it was actually testing pretty good on the day that
It's
we
testing
passed it.
consistently with what you would expect to be in flood water. So.
Yeah, I guess some of the farmers just see it as another spotlight on them and environmental challenges that they don't need right now during this time of recovery and dealing with it. And I felt bad that in some of their opinion, we shed a negative light on it on them when it didn't need to happen yet.
Mr. Chair, I think the other thing, as the weather warms and there's no fresh water coming into that water body, the dissolved oxygen in water goes down. And so that creates an opportunity for botulism and many other diseases, because you're going to see a fish die off. You're going to see some waterfowl that is not able to recover because of the botulism and because of the contaminants, not that are there today, but all of the aqua life, and as the algae bloom is doing its job, eating up all of the nutrients in the water, that algae bloom is also going to die and turn over.
Yes, sir.
And so I think there is some great potential. The way I measure the lake, it goes down about 6 inches a week. And that's just going to continue to increase. I am kind of disappointed in Abe because he goes down there and takes pictures and he hadn't caught that alligator yet. I want to see a picture of the alligator.
Is there really one in there floating around?
Abraham Valencia, Kings County OES, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. So the public health order allows a lot of resources to the lake that are paid by federal grants or state grants that otherwise the county would be liable. I mean, the testing of the water itself, I understand where the farmers are coming from. A lot of them, they look at it as a liability issue because a lot of their land does have a lot of chemicals. But, in our public messaging, Rose, her PIO, her public information officer, myself, we've been clear to the public that there is no threat of being around the water. So for those farm workers that are around there, and also, the way the testing works, whatever ammonia, diesel is out there is too little compared to the massive lake. So that's not really a threat. But right now, they are testing the water, Supervisor Valley. They're out there checking the water for the ducks and the wildlife that's out there. Recently the state contracted aerial disbursement of larvicide and adulticide to treat mosquitoes. That cost, millions of dollars. If that public health order, that was the first thing they asked my office, has the county declared a public health emergency? Once the answer was yes, that opened up, those aerial disbursements. So it's not just about the water, it's about the mosquitoes and there's a big picture. But we understand where the farmers are coming from, and we've made it clear, that there's no threat to be anywhere working around the lake, any aerial, anything that looking at the water is not going to hurt anybody. So.
Thank you. Appreciate you putting that out there. And I'm fine if it passes. I understand the administrative side, and I try to relay that during our phone call a month and a half ago. But I think I'll represent just their concern today with the no vote today. Okay? Yes, sir. Supervisor Robinson.
I see this as just a way of being cautious or ultra cautious. I think once the water spills out of its natural waterways, you're dealing with fertilizer, you're dealing with animal waste, things of that nature. Of course, I certainly sympathize with business, but we have to be a little bit cautious in this instance. I think business can continue as normal, but I understand the caution.
Thanks, Supervisor. Anyone else before we open up? Motions?
I'll go ahead and move.
Moved by Naz.
Second.
Second by Robinson. Madam Clerk?
Joan Evans?
Yes.
Richard Valley?
No.
No.
Yes,
Rusty Robinson?
Yes.
Richard Fagundes?
Yes.
Item passes 3 in favor, 1 in opposition, and 1 absent. Thank you. Thank you, Don. Okay, we'll move forward. There's a study session coming from administration. You like to lead, Ms. Martinez?
Good morning, board members. Carrie Martinez, County Administration. So County Administration with HR has created an employee retention and recruitment committee based on the decision of the board allocating the $6 million from the American Rescue Plan Act funding. We've been actively meeting bi-weekly. This is a volunteer committee comprised of 10 department heads who have representation of each represented groups. We have been working actively to try to make some recommendations to bring forth for your board. We do have 2 sections that we focus on: recruitment and retention. So to better guide the recommendations, we wanted to give the board a glimpse of our workforce. Staff has worked hard on this presentation, is particularly Alex in our office, our intern, and I thought it would be a great opportunity for him to present and speak on some of these positions. Additionally, this presentation does compare to neighboring counties. I want to highlight that we do have a current class and pay study occurring right now, and I do not want to take away from that study. However, this is just a snap time currently right now as of today. So at this time, I will now hand it over to Alex Walker.
Hey, good morning.
Thank you, CEO Martinez, and good morning, Mr. Chairman and Board of Supervisors. Very proud to be here, Alex Walker Administration. So what we're going to do first is we're going to look at Kings County at large, and this data comes from the Kings County Economic Development Corporation from the most recent report. So on the next slide, you will see that the current population in Kings County is just over 150,000 people. And the civilian labor force is at 58,000 with a participation rate at 53%. And that represents the working age population. So we're not counting the retirees and children in the county. Our regional education attainment, 15% of residents have a bachelor's degree or higher. And our median household income is at 61,000. And our median house value is at over $227,000. As we can see here in 2020 in Q1, we saw a dip in employment. That was due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But as we've seen, employment has increased 3.8% in the region, representing the economic recovery and the employment recovery we're seeing. On the next slide, we can see the unemployment rate. As of May 2023, it was at 8%. And May 2022 was actually at 6.2%, but we're still in that recovery phase due to the pandemic. And we can see that there's going to be some fluctuation as the market changes, as the economy changes, but we're still seeing overall improvements. On the next slide, we can see that the average worker in Kings County earns $53,000. This represents an increase of 2.1% in the region. And for comparison purposes, the national average is at $68,000. And the cost of living index is a very useful measure to better understand what is our purchasing power in Kings County. Our purchasing power is higher than in the rest of the state of California. Even though the rest of the state of California has higher wages, we have more purchasing power in Kings County. And the rest of the state is 41.5% higher compared to the U.S. national average. And this pie chart represents our largest sectors in Kings County. So our largest sector is healthcare and social assistance, followed by agriculture and public administration. This represents where the majority of our industries are clustered in the county. And when we go on to the next slide, we can see that employment is projected to increase by 424 jobs. The fastest growing region will be in mining, oil, quarrying, and extraction, followed by healthcare, ag, and food accommodation services, seeing the most job growth. And on the next slide, we can see representation of the clusters in a different graphic. As you can see on the very bottom to the right, you'll see the competitive advantage threshold. All of our industries are above the competitive threshold, so our wages are pretty consistent, pretty competitive. And you can see by the size of the circles that agriculture, food, manufacturing, and public administration are our biggest clusters. Going on to the next slide, you can see economic overview for Kings County, our gross domestic product. It expanded by 2.3%, and this follows a growth of 3.9%. So our economy is doing well. We're still in that economic recovery, as I mentioned, due to the pandemic. But as we make that recovery, we're seeing increases. We're doing very well, much better than what we saw in 2020. And at the later end of the chart to the left, where we were negative 0.15%, we're seeing consistent growth. And our current GDP is at 6.4 million. And now we're going to go into Kings County data specific, and I'm going to pass it on to Matthew.
Good job.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Matthew Boyette, Kings County Administration. So over the next few slides, I'm going to see some visual representation of the growth trends in our FTE separated by department. And so what you're looking at here is what our overall county workforce looked like 15 years ago, back in fiscal year 2008. So we had 1,327.38 FTE. And as you can see, human services, sheriff, probation, health, take the lion's share of that. So human services has about 23% of that pie. sheriff about 19%, and then probation and health roughly the same at about 10%. Next slide, please. And so what you're looking at now is the same kind of data, but from 10 years ago. What did we look like 10 years ago? And you'll see that it looks similar in the fact that HSA is keeping consistent with their proportion of the pie. It grew just slightly at 24%. Sheriff holding pretty consistent at 20% there. And probation at health still coming in consistent at 10 and 9% respectively. And at this particular threshold, we had 1,365.38 FTE. So pretty consistent with where we were 15 years ago. So next slide, please. Okay, and as you can see the graph move, 5 years ago, this is what our county FTE workforce looked like. And this is the year where we see HSA kind of pulling away from the norm and taking a larger portion of that pie, hovering just about 30%. Again, sheriff kind of holding steady at 20% there. And then probation and health going down slightly at about 8% apiece. But again, that is just due to the growth at human services at the top. So, and here about 5 years ago, we had 1,546.21 FTE. So as you can see over the last 15 years, you know, all the same departments have kind of taken the lion's share, and those proportions have been somewhat consistent with the last 5 years. HSA kind of pulling away from the pack, pulling away from the trend, so to speak. Next slide, please. And this is what administration brought before your board back in June as far as what is recommended in the fiscal year 23-24 recommended budget. This is what our FTE allocations look like, proportional by department. So we recommended 1,673.31 FTE. And this is keeping with the historic trend of about 5 years ago, with HSA still maintaining about 29 to 30% of the overall county workforce, as well as sheriff kind of hovering around that 19-20% mark, and then probation and health about that 9 to 8% mark there. So still keeping proportional with where we were about 5 years ago. Next slide, please. And this, unfortunately, it's slightly hard to read, but you have printouts in front of you. And so what this shows is a kind of a more data-centric version of the graphs that we just looked at. And so on the left-hand side, you'll see it's separated by fiscal year. In the middle, in the various columns, we have all of the departments there. That any given year, it notates the department's full-time FTE for that fiscal year. And if you move all the way to the right in the total column, that's the county total FTE for that particular fiscal year. And so you can see from 15 years ago, you can look at any particular department and see how their FTE have either grown or contracted over time. And so in the middle section, we just have a few different metrics there on growth. And so at the 15, 10, and 5-year mark, we have growth based off of percentage there. And so you'll see that admin over the last 15 years, you know, we have seen growth. We've seen growth about 48% over the last 15 years. Moving on, if you look at county council, you can kind of see consistent growth there. HR, you see a little steady growth. If you look over at IT, you'll see that growth has kind of gone down from where they were 15 years ago. And then across the board, for all of our public safety folks, we have DA, sheriff, probation, fire. We're showing pretty consistent growth there over the last 15 years, growing at both the 10 and 5-year mark as well. And then obviously health, behavioral health showing steady growth. Although if you look at behavioral health on the 15-year mark, that first metric there, kind of hard to see on the screen, but on your printout there, you'll see over the last 15 years, they've grown just about 260% from where they started 15 years ago. And then HSA, again, showing large growth over the last, when compared to the last 10 to 15 years. So overall, countywide, we've seen pretty substantial growth over the last 10 to 15 years. So if you look all the way to the right in that middle section where it says growth per milestone by department, overall to the right, you'll see in those pink cells there, over the last 15 years, our overall county FTE has grown 26.1% countywide. And if we look at that same metric over the last 10 years, we've grown 22.6%. Over the last 5 years, we've grown 8.6%. So a couple of highlights here. If we look at average growth per year by department, we do show countywide every year, we're averaging about 23.06 FTE added to our county workforce. And of that, a lot of the needle movers, as far as the department growth averages, we're looking at DA at 1.08 FTE per year, sheriff at 4.7, fire at 1.4, behavioral health at 2.9, and HSA with the most at 12.27 FTE growth per year on average over the last 15 years. So just to kind of look at it as a whole, sheriff over the last 15 years, we're seeing them grow about 39%. So they've added about 70.5 FTE in the last 15 years. Behavioral health, as I mentioned before, they've grown about 258%, adding about 44 FTE over the last 15 years. And then HSA growing about 61%, adding about 184 FTE over the last 15 years. Next slide, please. And then this is just kind of a line chart here showing, again, what the pie charts and what the data table has shown, but just in linear fashion. So you can see the vast majority of the departments relatively holding steady there in the bottom half of the graph. But then with HSA at the top there and sheriff right below with the lion's share of the growth and activity there as far as our FTE trends go. So with that, I'll send it back over to Kyria. Thank you.
So this slide here shows the longevity in Kings County of our employees. When we pulled this data, we had 1,474 FTE positions allocated. As Matthew had mentioned, we actually have 1,600 positions allocated, but we have a vacancy rate of 14%. So this was just the employees that we currently have allocated. 70% of our county employees serve 10 years or below. That makes up our largest population of 1,038 employees who have been here less than 10 years. There's 293 employees. 20% of county employees have served 10 to 20 years. And 143 employees make up 10% of our total employees. They've served here 20 plus years. So this is just kind of a snapshot of in time of the longevity in Kings County of our employees. I will now pass it over to Alex.
Thank you, CEO Martinez. So now that we reviewed the historical data, got an examination of where we stand with our FTE from the past to present, we wanted to do a comparison of our benefits and salaries with other counties we're competing against for jobs. And if we go to the next slide, we can see the parameters of this comparison that we made. Again, I want to reiterate, this is not taken away from the compensation study that's currently underway, but to provide your board a snapshot of what we look like in time right now, because we are competing for these positions, and also to examine the success and impact of board action that was previously taken. And what we did is we selected 3 counties to compare Kings County to. So we examined Tulare, Fresno, and Madera. And we also examined 3 different jobs from different bargaining units. So we examined the account clerk 1, which comes from our general unit, Deputy DA 1, which comes from the Prosecutors Association, and our road superintendent, a management position from unrepresented management. So we wanted to look at 2 entry-level positions as well as 1 management position to kind of get a good sense of where we are competitively as a county. And what we did is we reviewed common benefits to have the most parity between the samples. As this board knows and the public knows, there are so many different benefits out there. We wanted to have a thoughtful comparison, so we're comparing apples to apples, not apples to cherries. And what we did is we looked at salary, health, dental, and vision with the closest PPO plan, because different counties have different plans available, as well as our discount and perk programs, retirement, vacation, paid holidays, as well as sick time. And when we go to the next slide, we'll first take a look at account clerk 1. As you can see, Tulare, Fresno, and Madera pay more of a starting salary for this position compared to Kings. Tulare offers more discount and perk programs. However, where we start to see Kings County closing the gap is with sick time, paid holidays, and vacation. It's very competitive. It's ahead of the pack. And when we go to the next slide, we'll see where we're really closely at when it comes to our benefits packages. So retirement, Kings County and Madera both rely on CalPERS. Tulare County and Fresno both each have their own county-specific retirement program. They're very competitive and comparable, but where we really see the differences on the next slide when we look at health, dental, and vision benefits. So Fresno, Madera are ahead of Kings County. If you see it to the right, you can see the employee contribution, and to the left, the county contribution. So for example, in Fresno County, the family contribution on the county side is over $700, roughly $18,000 after all the benefits are received. And when we take a look again, we can see that Kings County, you're paying less money on an employee contribution opposed to Tulare County. So on the employee side in Kings County, if you're on a family, at the end of the year, you're contributing yourself $12,000, while in Tulare County family, it's up to $29,000, just shy of $30,000. So we have a very competitive benefits package, and that kind of makes up the difference between the salary. And we go to the next slide, we can examine the Deputy DA1. I appreciated the comments that we received in public comment earlier. I did want to clarify to the board that this is a snapshot of the Deputy DA1 position as listed in the county's MOUs and class specifications. It is not encompassing the temporary alternative hiring practices and hiring bonuses that other counties are doing. Because again, we want to have the most thoughtful comparison. We wanted to look at the data, such as we're not examining people hiring a deputy DA at a DA3 rate. We're examining the DA1 rates. And as you can see, that Kings County was previously on the lower end, but board action on July 11th actually puts us ahead of the pack. So the new salary range for the deputy DA1 in Kings County starts at $77,000 and is capped at $94,000. And again, like as I mentioned at the previous slide, we have very competitive paid holidays, sick time, and vacation. Very competitive and ahead of the pack compared to the other counties that we examined. Moving on to the next slide, we can see the retirement plans. These are going to be kind of similar throughout this presentation. Again, Kings County and Madera County relying on the CalPERS programs with some variation there, and Tulare and Fresno County each having their own. But where we really see Kings County ahead of the pack, being a very competitive and wonderful place to work, is when we look at our county benefits for health, dental, and vision. As you can see here on this chart, Kings County is ahead, paying the most monthly contribution as well as having the lowest employee contribution. So for a family for 24 pay periods, the employee is contributing at the end of the year $2,242, opposed to Madera on their PPO plan, their most comparable PPO plan, they are contributing themselves $24,000. And the county also exceeds in what it's contributing to it families itself at $20,000, while in Madera it's at $18,000, followed by Madera and Tulare. Madera and Tulare. Moving on to the next slide, we get an examination of our management position, the road superintendent. Kings County is ahead of the pack again when it comes to starting salary. This is partially due we're a smaller county. The road supervisor in our county has a little bit more responsibilities than other. They're still comparable positions, but Tulare, Madera, Fresno, a little bit larger counties have more staff on that position. So we compensate for that additional responsibility. Again, our paid holidays, vacation, our sick time are ahead of the charts, very competitive, very consistent. And our discount perk programs are also the same for all employees for every county. If we move on to the next slide, we can see again the retirement. Again, Kings County, Madera following that CalPERS system, and Fresno and Tulare each having their own county specific program. But what's interesting here is that Kings County has a maximum county contribution for their deferred comp of $2,500, opposed to other counties where it's much lower and you have to have that optional buy-in from the employee. So we offer a more comprehensive deferred comp program opposed to other counties when it comes to this position, as well as the previous position for the DA1. Moving on to the next slide, we can see, again, this is where we really stand out for this position. In Kings County, we have a higher contribution. The county contribution on the family side is $43,000. But what is incredible about Kings County is that we pay 100% of the health insurance premium, opposed to Tulare County, which only pays 80% for only one of the specific plans, the 750 plan PPO. And again, when we look at the employee contribution, the employee for both single and family is paying $0, which is phenomenal. It really demonstrates that Kings County prioritizes that benefits package, really wants to make this a healthy place to work, really wants to take care of our employees' families. It really stands out ahead of the pack when it comes to competitive benefits packages. We move on to the next slide. I'm going to pass it back to CEO Martinez.
Thank you, Alex. So this slide just kind of highlights the revenue. We receive a lot of revenue in the county departments. You know, we are legally required to spend on certain programs like HSA dollars, state and federal dollars. However, the county does have discretionary funds, and I wanted to show your board the discretionary funds compared to other counties. Kings County, our discretionary funds at $55 million. Madera is at $80 million, which is the most comparable county. Tulare is at $207 million, and Fresno is leading the pack at $338 million. These are the funds that your board has flexibility on, but I do want to highlight that although our discretionary funds are the lowest in comparable counties, we are still keeping up with all the other counties with our competitive benefits. So I do want to highlight that we have always taken a conservative approach with our budgets, and it shows in our benefits.
Do you know the discretionary funds for Kern County?
It's probably in the
Similar to
similar
Fresno?
to Fresno counties, correct?
Yes, and again, we selected these counties because they're the most neighboring to the Central Valley. They're the most comparable. And again, we wanted to have that snapshot look. And when we review the key findings, we can actually see that Tulare County previously paid the highest salary ranges. However, again, the board action taken on 7/11 puts Kings County in the lead for the Deputy DA 1, as well as in the Deputy DA 2, 3, and 4 positions, as well as our road superintendent. And Tulare County does have the most employee discount perk programs. What that looks like is there's just more partnerships, more variety in the types of discounts available, such as gym memberships. And this is something that the county could consider in the future. But again, we're not bringing any recommendations today. This is just an informational study session to give you a snapshot in time of where we are today as a competitive employer. And when we also examine our competitiveness, we see that Kings County offers the most paid holidays. We have 11 full days plus 1 half day, as well as a personal day and 3.5 holiday closure. And Madera and Tulare County both offer 13, and Tulare also offers personal day. So we're seeing that we're offering similar things, but what distinguishes Kings County from our other neighboring counties is that holiday closure. And Kings County vacation time is competitive. There are trade-offs. There's going to be less days per year, but we have a higher maximum accrual of 320 hours, and our sick time is consistent with other counties. And again, our health, dental, and vision plans are very competitive between the counties. Kings is ahead in DA1 road superintendent, but we acknowledge that we are behind Fresno and Madera in the account clerk 1 position, but we close that gap when it comes to retirement, when it comes to the family contribution from the employee side, et cetera. And when we look at our deferred comp plans, again, there's going to be some trade-offs when it comes to matching programs opposed to having a higher salary. But again, we are very competitive when it comes to our retirement programs and our deferred comp plans. In the next slide, you'll see what other benefits are common between the counties. So for a variety of different positions, Kings County, as well as our neighboring counties, offer bilingual pay, special certificate pay, flexible spending programs, employer assistance programs, and workers' compensation. But these were excluded from this comparison because they're very position and need dependent. And we wanted to have the most thoughtful comparison, examining the top benefits that employees are looking at when they're considering working for a county, because we are in that recruitment era. We are in that area where we're examining what can we do to become a competitive program? What can we do to retain our employees? And these things are great. We can examine them further, but they're excluded from this initial study because, again, we wanted to have consistent findings because one position might require it for one county, one not another, but the benefits that we examine are required for all. And when we move on to the next slide, we can see what makes Kings County unique and competitive compared to our other counties. So again, we have an on-site employee clinic. And what's really phenomenal about this program is that employees are not required to use sick time or sick leave to attend it and receive services from it. And this really makes us unique in the region, in the Central Valley, because there's only 2 other places, the city of Visalia and another location in the valley, but it's not on a county on-site facility. So that's what really distinguishes Kings County as an employer that cares about its employees and is providing benefits and perks. When we also, again, reiterating that holiday closure, that 3.5 day, that's unique for Kings County opposed to the other counties that we examined. We have the wellness blood drive wellness blood draw, where county employees can get really insightful health diagnostics that help them make better choices for their health and their lifestyles for free. And we also have our employee recognition barbecue, employee of the quarter, and our various employee service awards. So we're building that culture and providing those benefits and really taking care of our employees here in Kings County. And in the next slide, you can see that are going to open the space for questions, and I'm going to pass the floor to CEO Martinez. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Good job, everybody.
That concludes our presentation. Again, this is a study session, so no action is required. I do just want to close off by stating that our County Employee Retention Recruitment Committee is actively working. We're meeting bi-weekly. We've received numerous proposals. We actually have those out surveying, and we're going to send it out to all department heads. And so we're actively trying to find better ways to recruit and incentivize our current employees to impact the entire county, not just specific positions, but for the entire good of the county. So at this time, if the board members have any questions, particularly with our presentation, thank you.
Good work. Questions from the board? Anybody at this time?
I just have two comments, Mr. Chair, and pages aren't numbered, but the 15-year full-time equivalent chart by department. One footnote I'd like to see is general fund funded departments versus funding from other sources. Because I think that's an important part as far as general fund or contributing funds from outside. And then it might have been a Freudian slip, Alex, but I think the relationship with the Central California Blood Drive is, I think, a very important membership here at the county, and I think that's somewhat unique. So whether it's the Battle of the Badges or the employee-supported blood drives that we have 4 times a year, I think are very important to not only the health of our campus, but the health of the valley.
Absolutely.
So I would like to see that added to them.
Thank you, Steve Nash. Steve Robinson, you have any comments?
No, just briefly, I think you did a good presentation, Alex. Good job on representing that. Also, just one point is rarely do I see anything quantified in terms of cost of living. And so at least the fact that that was addressed, I appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We have, if there's anyone who wants to make a comment, council, now would be the time. If anyone would like to. Is there anyone that'd like to come to the podium and comment? So I don't know if the DA's coming back or if she's monitoring. Is she here?
No, I saw her there earlier.
Okay.
Dave Robinson, Kings County Sheriff. I appreciate the presentation. We, as department heads, got to see it a few days ago. Some of us did, and it was really good. I'm the sheriff, coroner, public administrator, and I also see Animal Services Division. And I point that out because when you compare to other counties, that's not necessarily the case. And so you see some increases for the sheriff's office, and it looks all great on paper. I agree with the general fund comment. I'd like to see the percentage increase in general fund over that same time frame. I think that would be helpful, because I'd be surprised if I saw a 30% general fund increase in my budget over that same time frame. We saw realignment in 2011, you saw on the graph. So between 2012 and 2017, we were adding positions based on realignment of state prison inmates, and that was our biggest growth. And in the other areas in our department, we have not seen that significant growth, and it was only because we were forced to take that. I know HSA is in the same boat as far as realignment goes, and realignment of programs and things like that. So it's really great information. I'm part of the committee, and so I won't bore you with ideas and suggestions, et cetera, today, because it's all coming through the committee. I'm optimistic because, I've been here almost 29 years, and this is the first time that I've seen some things addressed that had been brought up for my entire 29-year career that are finally being addressed today under our current CAO, and I really appreciate that. We are competitive. I recruit all the time when I'm in the community. I don't care if I'm at Carl's Jr. and I really like the person who handled my order. I give them a business card and I tell them we're hiring. And some of us have positions that are hard to fill. Detentions technicians, detentions deputies for me are my two that are hard to fill. I'm sympathetic to the attorney positions in the county, and it's not just the prosecution office. I've seen what county council's gone through specifically because it impacts my department on a daily basis over the last couple of years, in the loss of staff there and down to 50% or less at one point. And so we have to be competitive. I'm fortunate. I have a police academy here in Hanford that I get to recruit from, and I recruit heavy and hard on a daily basis, and my staff does. And we pull people in to work in the jail, and then we put them into bailiff division, then we send them out patrol. So if you were to look at my patrol division, it looks like we've been full staff for a couple of years, and it's all well and good. The only reason that that's the case is because we recruit hard in the jail division and transfer those people into other areas, which is good. The biggest eye opener on that chart to me was the 70% less than 10 years or 7 years, I
10 years.
forget, 10 years. And I'm proud to be part of the 20+ category of the 140. I tell people all the time that Kings County is an awesome place to work and I absolutely love working here. I think one of the biggest areas that we are deficient is keeping those people, keeping that 70% beyond the 10-year mark. Because as you saw in the 3 categories beyond that, those categories aren't going to increase. Those 10 to 12-year, 10 to 15-year employees don't automatically jump up from 50 to 200. So, you know, as we continue to go forward, we're going to have the 20-year plus category is going to be 50 people in the next few years based on the math. That's where, as a county employee, we haven't done a good job is when you get to a point in your career between that 10 and 15-year mark, guess what you do? You start looking at what's my retirement benefit. And one of the areas that I feel we can do better in Kings County is that retirement benefit, not on the PERS side, that's out of our control. But health insurance is expensive in retirement. In some other jurisdictions like the state and some the other counties, they have a benefit plan for employees in retirement to help offset those extreme health insurance costs. And that's one area where I think Kings County can become competitive amongst some other things that are coming through the committee. So I do appreciate the presentation. I think in my career, it's the first time I've seen anything like this. And, you know, Joe can probably speak to it. He and I started about the same time. And it's really.
You're a little bit older.
So it's good to see. I'm super impressed. I'm very optimistic. And I think your board's aware, you know, as an elected official, I don't control the budget and I don't control the number of positions I have. That is the direct responsibility of the Board of Supervisors. So if you want me to have more money, you have to put more money there. I have to ask for it, of course. If you want me to have more positions, you have to put more positions there. And of course, once again, I have to ask for it, but that is a direct responsibility of the Board of Supervisors under the state law and case law in California. And so, you know, you give me a budget number, but if you want to give employee raises and you tell me to stay within that budget number, that's what I'll do. But I'm fortunate, I have a $55 million budget. Some departments are small, and if you give them a budget number and you say, hey, we're going to give employee 15% raises, they might not be able to stay within their budget. Those are some of the things that we can do. If you give me a budget number and you say, hey, but we're gonna change some compensation levels for staff, we'll figure out a way. You let us do it. You know, we got a lot of smart department heads here. And so that would be my message is if you guys really want to do something for employees, I know the salary study's coming and I appreciate that because there are some anomalies in there that need to be addressed. But at the end of the day, if this board wants to do some drastic things, we'll work within the budget. You just give us the number. So thank you.
Sheriff, can I ask you a question? Thanks for your comments. You've been leading along with DA Hacker when it came to retention and recruitment resources. You guys were very vocal saying this is what's needed. So you helped raise it $5 million and the ARPA funds. Now that money's put out there, I know it's early in the game, but does it make a difference to you or does it cause you challenges if deputies or personnel that you're recruiting to join or to retain to make a difference to you whether they get a lump sum payment or it's spread out as far as the effectiveness of how it could help to you and if the program isn't working in a way that you would like it, do you feel that you have an opportunity to be vocal to change that, or would you feel you'd have to work with the DSA to change that?
Yeah, so I try to communicate with our associations. You know, my 2 biggest are the DSA and the Detentions Deputies Associations. And so we try to just meet and discuss ideas. When it comes down to the negotiation process, I'm not involved in that. They do that through County Administration, Human Resources. And so I'm not in tune with the details of those things sometimes until I get the feedback or questions asked. You know, I have my personal opinion on over the course of a pay period or whether it's a lump sum. Personally, I'm a lump sum guy because you can actually see it. Now, when you get taxed on it, it hurts, right? But we all paid our 6,000% in taxes in California, and it hurts when you get a lump sum and you get it taxed like that. But you see it bigger on a lump sum. But I can understand why some folks would want to drag that out to say, well, we're going to retain them and you're going to get it week by week. But a couple $100 every pay period doesn't necessarily retain someone. Yeah, you've retained them for 6 months, but if they're getting a signing bonus to another jurisdiction for $10,000, mathematically, it's pretty simple to figure out. We're unique here in Kings County, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, in that we have to recruit from outside of our area, and you have to be competitive with that recruitment. And in doing so, if you pay the same exact money as Tulare, Fresno, Kern, et cetera, you're not recruiting from those areas. If you're paying the same exact, you have to have something better to offer. And especially when the job market in those areas is really strong, where you can shop around a little bit. And so, I personally think we got to pay more for our prosecutors and all of our attorneys here. I see the private contracts that go through the county counsel's office when we have to hire private attorneys outside to deal with issues that we have coming from the jail, mostly when we have to defend ourselves and defend the county. The hourly rates for those private attorneys is double and triple what our county counsel makes. County counsel could leave and go make a lot more money, right? And when DA Hacker brought that proposal in with $190 and $100 an hour, those are private attorney rates. So that means our benefit package has to be way better, because that's how we're competitive. Our retirement package has to be way better, because that's how we're competitive across the board for all county employees. We train and do really good in training a lot of people at this county, as you saw from the graph, for the first 10 years, and then we lose them. So I think the retention piece is really huge. The recruitment's huge, but if you have a good retention piece, you're going to keep people for longer. And so, we're not necessarily, department heads aren't necessarily involved in negotiations when it comes to the associations. We're kind of on the peripheral, and they'll ask questions on both sides to see what works and what doesn't work, but we're just not heavily involved in that.
Sure.
And so, yeah, I'm super optimistic. I think we're in a really good place here in Kings County. Now, would some of us like to see it next Tuesday's agenda item? Absolutely. But, I'm a realist as well, and I know that these things take time. And so any little things that we can do, and the Prosecutors Association is in a bad way right now. It's been trending that direction for years, and it's in a bad spot right now. But you can't pay the same as Tulare County and think that they want to come here. You got to pay more, and that's really what it comes down to. When new people come in the door, like when I came in the door at 23 years old, I didn't need the family insurance. There's certain things that we don't need at an early age in our careers. You grow into those things, and when your families grow. And so when you compare, the apples to apples, and you're looking at what a family plan is and what a family plan is, people coming in at 21, 22, 23 years old, they don't worry about the family plan. They want to know what the pay is right now and, how much money can I make? And so I would just tell people it's just a great place to work. Take a pay cut. It's okay. You'll recover from it down the road. That's my sales pitch. Take a pay cut. It'll be okay. You'll recover if you stick around long term. And personally, if you stick around long term at this county, you do very well. We just don't keep people long term, and that's the hard part. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate your comments, and I know that we've both been around long enough to know that the Board of Supervisors, public safety is a priority. And so, yes, it's not all on one person, even with you as an elected official, but you as the elected sheriff, you have a responsibility to lead and to bring to the board, here's the vision, here's the way I want to lead. And if it plays any role in our jurisdiction, then yes, it gets agendized. But if it doesn't, then I think the public would expect that you're handling the business of the Kings County Sheriff's Department, because there's a lot that the board doesn't get to be a part of, or the discussions. We have great staff. that does that, and we appreciate what goes on Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 here. With that being said, just in your example, I depend on you and your communication and your leadership to make sure the sheriff's department is moving forward. And you're right, you get a budget. Sometimes you say, hey, I need more positions. Now it's before the board. But when you have your budget, you've done a great job of making it work. This is what I have. Hey, I have 10 empty positions, but the funding is there for it. Now you're going to go out and you're doing, as you stated, you're talking to everyone. As a kid at Carl's Jr., you're recruiting, you're doing what you can to do on that. And that's the part that I'm talking about. I just don't want to see the board take a hit or the board look anti-public safety, because we're not, and we put our money where our mouth is on that. And again, when we vote and we say, here's 5 or 6 million, go recruit and retain, and then we hear later on, hey, this isn't working, or there's negative comments to it. To me, that's not fair to the board, because the board has acted quickly. We could still be sitting on that decision on what to do with ARPA funds, but we didn't. We did that within 2 weeks. And so to me, I think that's a clear signal that nobody could ever question where the board is at on public safety.
And I echo those comments, and I agree with what you just said. I've been around a while, and this Board of Supervisors, has done really well for county employees. And especially the three of you that have been around a while, you've always looked out for county employees. And it's just another one of those occasions where, it's come to the head again. And, when we saw the raises in, I think, 2017, I'd never seen that before. We saw, I think, 14% for detentions deputies, somewhere in that range. I'd never seen that before in my career. And I know the three of you were on the board at the time. And so, Supervisor Robinson has big shoes to fill. So I think that I totally agree. I'm lucky, fortunate, blessed. I'm in my 13th year as sheriff. If we were to go back to my first year as sheriff, I don't know that I would have been able to stand in the podium as I do today to speak the things that I speak. And so it's a learning process for all of us too. And so, yeah, absolutely. Your board has always been supportive of public safety and all county employees, quite frankly. Are there gaps? Absolutely. And that's where I think all of us department heads can do a better job sometimes, is helping county administration and putting data together and sharing data instead of just sitting back and relying on somebody else to do the work for us. Is let's put it together. I tell my staff that all the time. Well, get me something to look at, put something together so I can see what you're talking about. We had an issue a few months ago with doing an overfill position, but it wasn't until we actually put the justification together that it made sense for county administration. But we hadn't done that at the beginning. And once we put it together, Carrie was like, yeah, it makes sense. Let's do it. But at first it was just a request that went in with no backup information. So I think sometimes that's where we can improve, all of us, is making sure that we get county administration, county human resources, and the Board of Supervisors that backup information, because things do change, like, raises, and like we saw what Kern County just did, 22% for detention deputies. You think staff isn't aware of that? They absolutely know that. 22% raise, and then a 3-year, 3%, 3%, 3%. So another 9% for detention deputies. You could better believe we'll be back. So, that's the competitive nature of the market that we're in right now. It's hard to get employees to want to come to work in the market that we're in, and that people want to work from home. I personally love leaving my house and coming to work. You couldn't pay me enough to work from home. But there's a market there now where people want to stay home and work. And I don't personally get it, but it's the competitive market that we're in. So I don't like it, but it's where we're at. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
Sorry to take up so much time.
No, you've been helpful in helping us to filter this out.
I thought I was just here to talk about the river.
You're next. We got a whole meeting waiting for you. Anybody else? What?
I'd like to, Randall Harper again. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Go ahead.
I want to say thank you to Sheriff Robinson. I agree with everything he said. And I want to comment just briefly on the keeping the people that we have. Like I stated before, I've been with the county for 11 years, 7 of those as an attorney. And for those 7 years, every day, I absolutely loved to come to work. And I don't want to work from home either. I wouldn't shower. I would be in pajamas. It would be awful. I came to work and I absolutely loved what I do. I am in court Monday through Friday because, like I said, I am the only attorney providing defense work for minors who are prosecuted in this county. I knew in those 7 years that with my level of experience, I could go to another county and probably not be in court every single day and be making more money. But I didn't want to. I loved my job. I loved working for this county and I came to work happy every day. That changed about a month and a half ago when the prosecutors union was, which I am a member of, that MOU was changed and only prosecutors were given benefits that I was not. There are 2 prosecutors that have been here longer than me. So things changed then. And for the first time now, I am in a position where I am talking to those other counties that I always knew was an option there. And I hate to see that happen to not only me, but to a lot of other attorneys in this county that feel the same way that I do after that happened. So I just urge just what Sheriff Robinson said, when you're faced with these issues, just kind of keep in mind how those employees, not just attorneys, everyone that have been here and been happy to be here for quite some time. It's not an easy task for Kings County to hold on to people like that. So try all you can do to hold on to people.
Did you get, when you first got hired, were you hired as a prosecutor?
It was.
Okay. And then does the acting DA at that time move you over to the division you're in, or did that open up? And is that something you applied for and interviewed for?
It opened up and I applied for it.
Got it. Got it. Okay. And you're talking about the retention bonuses, huh?
Yes, and the maxing out is another huge one. I was not maxed out. And again, I've been an attorney here for 7 years. And so there are some attorneys that were immediately maxed out in their pay level, who are brand new attorneys to Kings County. And so, yeah, those combined things is what I'm talking about.
And when you feel you get excluded out of something like that, is that a prosecutors association decision, or do you feel that's the Board of Supervisors decision?
That's a really difficult one because the prosecutors union includes prosecutors and then myself, one attorney at Minors Advocate and one attorney, I believe, at Child Support. Myself and the one attorney at Child Support are always only going to be 2 attorneys in a group of at least 15 district attorneys. So, an association, we are going to vote. And of course, the association is going to vote for this board to give the prosecutors $15,000. And they deserve it. I'm not taking anything away from them. It's just when there are other attorneys too in that union that were excluded from those benefits.
Thank you, man. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for. Morning, man.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I appreciated so much what the sheriff shared, and I also very much appreciate being on this committee. It's been really gratifying, and I think it's one of the best things we've done in a long time. I just wanted to speak to the behavioral health department. When you look at FTEs, we represent a very small number, but when you look at the budget, we are one of the largest budgets in the county. I think we might be number 2. And that represents the amount of requirements that we have from the state, the oversight, the number of programs that have grown exponentially in the last 5 years and will continue to grow. So as we continue to work to pull down funds, which we are doing at an amazing pace at this point, $6 million last year for mobile crisis. Every time we do that, it increases our work, it increases our oversight, it increases the outreach that we need to do with our partners, sometimes just to write these grants and then to oversee them and to hire people. And so that is a complexity that's growing in our department that is not reflected when you look at the FTEs. So it's not our goal to expand our FTEs a large number, but it is our goal to expand the expertise and the leadership and oversight that we're able to attract. So we need to attract some of the highest level people we can in our department. That includes the the deputy directors, a psychologist, anything that's at the highest level, our psychiatrist, our medical director. So we need support in focusing on those positions so that we can have the expertise to oversee the department well. It's not really about increasing numbers for us. So I just wanted to make that specific point because it's unique to our department. Thank you.
Thank you. Morning, Chief.
Good morning, members of the board, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple things. I do want to thank Kyria, and just like the sheriff echoed, I'm going to echo the same sentiments that this is the first time I've ever seen this in 35 years in public safety, where we're actually out looking at things, ways to make changes for employees. And I don't know what to say. It's nothing that I've ever experienced in my career. I would like to point out, though, one of those slides, when you look at those numbers of employees that are below 5 years and above 20, that's affecting the fire department tremendously. We have currently had some situations where we had to not promote people internally because we don't have people that meet the minimum qualifications. That slide tells a tale that we need to look at and be serious about. How do we bridge that gap? When I came back in 2000, one of my marching orders was to prepare people from inside, bring people up to speed. Those people are quickly getting to retirement age, the people who are in those positions. We don't have anybody to fill those positions in between. Just had an interesting experience yesterday, and the sheriff can talk about it too. We had interviews for a firefighter. And the employment environment is changing considerably from what I'm used to, especially in the fire service. We usually enjoy pretty good recruitments. We have 9 positions open for firefighter. We had 8 interviews scheduled. Only 4 of the people, well, actually only 3 of the people were going to entertain hiring. The rest of them were no-shows, no calls, no, they were contacted previously and said, hey, we have these jobs. Would you like to come in and interview for it? And they said yes, and they didn't show up. I've never experienced that before in my career, where you just don't have the people show up. That's a change, I think, in the employment environment out there. People don't look at the jobs the way they used to. I mean, they don't look at employment as the way they used to. Maybe they had a better offer. They didn't tell us yesterday why that happened, but I just wanted to point that out. Those are 2 observations, that change in the years of service and that change in the commitment of the people that are actually applying for the jobs. It's changing. The environment is changing considerably. And we need to be cautious of that and understand that those gaps where we don't have anybody between 5 years and 20 years, or minimal people, that really hurts us. Especially when we're looking to grow our next leaders, succession planning, and all those type of things. So, and with the fire department not being general funded to a minimum amount, our ability to pay people to get to those jobs is limited too. So we're going to have to address that at some point. So, thank you.
Thank you. And Chief, also, I'd be interested, or I'm sure the board would too, in hearing impacts on these recruitment and retention bonuses, on the pros and cons, and how that's working out for you as well. But thanks for being at the table and working with your firefighters association as well to make sure that the intentions of that money gets used to help fill those positions and used to have people actually show up for the interview. Man, you're sitting there taking the time to interview, and the money's there allocated for the position, and people aren't showing up. That's hard to hear, especially we all know, where our firefighters are at, and a lot of them are away from home and on the road, and we follow their social media, and we see them around big fires, and we see them deployed, and obviously, yes, they need help.
Yeah, and the people that work for the Kings County Fire Department are committed to the Kings County Fire Department. I have to say that. The men and women that work there are 100% behind providing protection, not only in our county, but across the state. So their hearts are there. It's just, that was an experience that I wasn't used to. And thank you for the commitment to making differences for the employees. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Madam DA, I'm glad you came back. There's an opportunity to speak if you would like. And
I did have a calendar appearance since we don't have the manpower to appear at all of our court conferences. But I am familiar with the PowerPoint presentation, and I would say that the DDA one position that the county has presented is not an accurate description of what a DD one really makes here in this valley. If you go to the Tulare County DA's office, the website immediately pops up with now hiring at $97,000. And that is because the District Attorney Tim Ward is hiring people on as a deputy DA3. He's completely skipping over the two job classifications that are underneath a deputy DDA3. In addition to that, he is promoting people very quickly into management positions so that he can give his deputies higher pay. The same thing is happening in Fresno County. They are hiring people on at higher steps than, Fresno County is hiring people on because their bar is lower. So for example, a deputy district attorney 4 here in Kings County needs to have 5 years of criminal law experience. And that is the new classification that was submitted by Coffin Associates. In Fresno County, an attorney only needs 3 years of experience to reach that higher classification step. In Kern County, they are offering a $15,000 signing bonus paid in full upon the first paycheck that the employee will make. So while I appreciate the county working hard and making sure that we have the right job classifications, if you go to government jobs and you look at the difference between salary in Fresno, salary in King, salary in Tulare, there's probably not going to be that much difference. We're not that far behind. But what they're doing is they're twisting the personnel rules so that they can hire at a standard above what we're doing here. So for example, the board graciously gave me an opportunity to hire people on as a step 5, commensurate with experience. But the problem here is that is not a carte blanche for me to hire somebody on who just got out of law school at a deputy district attorney 3 classification. Also, the board was very specific that I could only hire at a step 5 if the experience warranted the step up. It was not an automatic situation, which is why I'm not advertising hiring automatically at $87,000 per year, because I respect this board and I respect this board's boundaries that it placed on my authority. And I would not abuse any leeway that the board gave me to get ahead as far as hiring goes. Does anybody have any questions?
I would, what I would ask of staff, if it's okay, and can you put together a one sheet on what the board's boundaries are, at least when it comes to the DA? And I mean that from the perspective that obviously we want to help. And I know you know that, Madam DA, that you've seen enough votes here that the board is here to help. And so I would like to learn more about what my role is and how far we can help, or if we're doing things that hurt the DA's mission, because I don't think that's what the intention of the board is, and it's definitely not mine. And I think it is very clear, and if not, I just want to say it again publicly. Yes, the board connects. We do connect the fact that helping you to be successful is relative to the sheriff's department as well. No one could expect those folks to go out there, put themselves on the line, and make the arrest of the bad guys, and then not have any DA, you or whoever is there, the ability to prosecute on that. And so we do see that. My comments earlier are just to point to the obvious fact, and I say this about the sheriff all the time. You are the leader. You got elected to the office. You're here, and your vision is there. Now, if the board, if you were coming every Tuesday and saying, I need 20 prosecutors, and the board is saying, no, we're only going to fund you 10, then yes, we have your hands tied on that. But if you're saying you need 20 like you are, and the funding's there for your 20, then that's where I say, I'm dependent on you, your vision, and your leadership to come help point the way. And you've been doing that by being very vocal And I commend you for that, especially your first year. You're coming out the gate and you're saying, here's where I need some changes at. So if anything, I want you to know, and you know this because we've talked privately on the phone, I know that I'm here to help, and I feel that my fellow board members are here to help and to do what we can. And we want to do it swiftly. And so I would like to learn what our parameters are and then keep engaging with the DA so we can move this along and get you the help. So that being said, are you ready to come back next Tuesday to move forward on your agendized items from last Tuesday on the 2 contracting positions?
I am ready to move forward, as well as submitting an additional agenda item with respect to taking some of the salary savings I have and applying it to a hardship stipend for the prosecutors that we want to retain. And I would also say that this board support has been 100% solid gold. I can't tell you how grateful I am to have this board be as supportive as it is for law enforcement and the district attorney's office in particular. It is unfortunate that we are coming into a job market that is unlike any job market ever before. And all you have to do is Google recruit attorneys, and you will find nothing but articles about how the great renegotiation has really taken its toll on counties such as ours. But I do encourage the board to continue its support and then continue to aggressively pursue solutions to the problems that we have today.
Madam DA, you also brought up the signing bonuses. It sounds like that if you had your way, that these would be lump sum payments. And again, when we voted on it, I assumed it was going to be a lump sum payment. And so if you feel that's not, the current process isn't helping you and it's associations or unions hands at the bargaining table, I mean, I would feel with you on that because I feel the same way. I'm actually disappointed that it's not a lump sum payment.
And I appreciate the chairman's comments because I was somewhat surprised that it wasn't. And it's one of those scenarios where you hear from one side and then you hear from the other side about what the negotiations might have been. And I can't negotiate for them and I can't negotiate for the county. And so it's hard for me to watch this interplay and then not be able to take the salary and the compensation and market it in a way that will bring in new candidates. And what I have the greatest optimism for is that this board is so supportive that we will continue to come up with new ways that we can find compensation to attract qualified candidates.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam DA. And then I guess my question to CAO is that, okay, who says that the board can't just impose a lump sum payment? And I don't say that from the fact of disrespecting labor organizations, because I know where I stand with them on that. But if I'm just hearing that here, where's it in writing and what's the law on that? Who says it, that the board cannot direct it if the board feels that in this case, this is a recruitment and retention tool that needs to be, and that it needs to be a lump sum tool out there?
There are all kinds of labor laws that apply to negotiations. And I would not recommend imposing something on a union without first engaging in
No, for sure.
negotiations.
I get that.
And fail to impasse.
No, I get that. I want it to be clear though that this is correct information we're getting, that the board couldn't say, here's the money and these are lump sum bonus payments. Because even for someone who's going to be hired on day one, they're not a member of any firefighters association or DSA. I'm here, I'm being interviewed by the sheriff, the chief, fire chief, or the DA, and this recruitment bonus and a one lump sum payment, at that point, what does it make a difference to anyone how that individual chooses to accept it?
I would say that it's already been bargained over. And if we want a reopening bargaining, we could. However, it's already been bargaining over. So to unilaterally change the bargain for agreement, I don't think it's within the board's power to do that.
I get that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just trying to clarify it for everybody and so we can all learn from the process. Because as a voting member and somebody who is very supportive of putting this money out there, then call me naive or uneducated, but I assumed when we voted, these were going to be tools, one lump sum payments. And then we learned after the fact. So I wish we'd have been told when we were sitting here talking that, you know, that this still has to go to bargaining on how it's accepted and broken down. And I don't recall that we were. And I don't want anyone to feel it's the board's fault if it's not being effectively used for the DA, fire, and the sheriff, and whoever else is going to use that as a recruitment tool, because that's not, again, as someone who's a decision maker, I wasn't aware of that.
I guess I'm uncertain about whether you're talking about imposing an additional lump sum payment or the one that's already bargained
Just the
over.
current one. And again, I would never impose anything on a labor union. I get that. I'm just saying, okay, we are here. I'm not arguing that. We're here. It's a bargaining tool. But the board was not told when we were sitting here trying to do good, trying to help the DA who's being very vocal, saying, I need money to recruit and retain. Within 2 weeks, here's the money. And then now it's not working. And it's disappointing to me.
I can understand that. It is disappointing. But I would say if there's going to be changes to what was over those same dollars that were already bargained over, it needs to go back to the table. And what could happen is they could go back to the table and express the board's desire to give it in a lump sum payment if that's what the board wants to do.
The prosecutors union did agree to, you know, the payments in that form. So had they had a difficulty with that decision, they could have brought it back to the table. However, they did agree to that decision.
Mr. Chairman, would the board, I would be happy to communicate to the prosecutors union the board's invitation, perhaps to discuss.
I would just like to clarify, but that there hasn't been a board decision about that willingness. It's been Supervisor Valley as an individual board member who's done that. So if the board as a body wants to make that decision, that they can, but I wouldn't communicate it until it's a board action.
Would the board have the appetite to agendize an item simply, and I know the language could be worked on, I'm just going off the top of my head, for an item to come before us that where the board could vote on whether or not it makes a difference to them, whether it's a lump sum payment or broken down paycheck to paycheck. And that decision wouldn't mean anything except to publicly let the associations know, hey, here's where the board stands on the issue. And then, like council correctly pointed out, then the bargaining units can say, okay, we don't care what the board thinks on that. Or they can say, well, the board is fine with this being a lump sum payment, and then go back to the bargaining table. Is that an avenue legally we could go down?
The board could take action if they choose to do that.
Yeah. Is that something the board would be willing to entertain? To see if there's progress on the matter?
I guess the only question I would have is if you give it in a lump sum and that individual leaves county employment, is that a gift of public funds? If they don't stay for the entire period of time that the retention was intended?
We could look and consider whether it would be a gift of public funds. I'd want to do some research on that subject.
Because that's the only thing that I appreciate in the prosecutors union doing what they did, because that's issued out and based on the time actually served in county employment. Whereas a lump sum does not tie that to a contract or services.
And
so you could, and unfortunately truck drivers do it all the time. They just farm the program. You go get a job and then you don't make probation. You just go to the next operation. You know, and I'm not saying the professional operations of an attorney, it would be that way, but there is a lot of incentive money out there that you can take advantage of.
Yes, sir. And I appreciate you bringing that up, Supervisor Neves. And I think that would be a good reason to agendize to have the discussion, because obviously there's a way to do it. The United States government does it. I mean, going back to 1990, when I signed my sitting in the Marine Corps recruiter's office, it was a $5,000 enlistment bonus. But I didn't get it the day that I signed as a in the recruiter's office because you're not a United States Marine yet. I had to pass boot camp. I had to go to school in Memphis, North Carolina, pass those professional courses, then recruit, then end up at my permanent duty station at El Toro. And then once I was there, it was probably like 5 months later, I got called in by my commanding officer. Here's your $5,000 check, right? So I would assume there's a way for us to get there where it's a recruitment bonus, but the DA isn't going to give a lawyer that check. Congratulations, you just got hired. Here's 15,000. Maybe it's a way where a year later they get it after passing X, Y, and Z obstacle, or 6 months later, whatever. That kind of language could be worked on. But I don't think people got the chance to do that. And I would like to see them get that opportunity to do it so it's effective. That's 6 million or 5 million. How much did we vote on?
6 million.
$6 million sitting there that is questioned on whether it's being effective or not. I don't think that's fair to the Board of Supervisors, the DA, the sheriff, or the fire chief. Would the board be willing to do a simple item like that?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, Supervisor.
Yeah, so I see competing interests in this. I think the board is tried earnestly to address the collective bargaining interests. On the other hand, it makes it a little challenging to market if you don't have that package up front. So I think I would have an appetite to discuss it further, agendize it, if you will.
Thanks, Supervisor. One more. Cap. Yes, Cap. Yes, ma'am.
Bring up the slide while I'm talking on this point, which shows the deputy district attorney one rate, including the pension bonus added into the equation. When the board, I'm sorry, I don't know if you guys can hear me. Can you hear me well?
You can move the mic over your way.
Oh, wait, can you hear me better?
Yes.
All right, so when Sarah Hacker district attorney came to the board to request us to change the personnel rules for a year to allow her to to hire all the way up to step 5 of the range, that approval, if you look at chapter 13 of the personnel rules, we already have the ability, if we're having difficulty retaining or recruiting for something, to actually do advanced step hires. And so what we did in essence is that this allowed the district attorney to be able to hire a 1-level person who's straight out of the college, coming in with their the bar license and say, okay, we're going to hire you at step 5, because this is a hard to recruit, hard to retain position. She has that flexibility. What we asked as part of that agenda item was that she also, if she's trying to hire at step 2 or level 2, level 3, or level 4, that they meet the minimum qualifications of those levels. But she has carte blanche to hire all the way to step 5 of those levels, as long as they meet the qualifications of the level. So I wanted to be clear on that. So she could arguably do the same thing Tulare County's doing. So right there where it says 94,003 is what we can hire at an entry person level 1. She could actually advertise where it says on our website, now hiring attorney 1s straight out of the bar license at 94,000. So I want to make that clear that this has had a positive impact. We had 2 applicants. We went months without an application. And last week after doing this, we've got 2 applications. That's great news. And I want to say our efforts are not unheard. They are being heard, and people are seeing the benefits and the value. Coupled with our health insurance, I think it's clear to see that their health insurance and what they pay out of pocket is way lower compared to any other county, because they used to be part of management. And when they were part of management and broke out to be the own prosecutors association, they started picking up their rates at a 50-50 split. And so theirs was only gradually. So they're one of the only bargaining groups here that have the lowest amount of copays or deductibles. So I just want to point that out, that yes, you do have the ability to hire at step 5.
Okay.
You did a good job. Thank you. That's the second time you helped today. Thank you.
Yes, and I'm glad that we have that clarification down, because the agenda item said that it had to be commensurate with experience. But now that I have this clarification, I will definitely start recruiting at 94.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We get one more in favor of having a simple item to discuss and clarify on the retention and recruitment bonuses.
Mr. Chairman, based upon that, I think you now have the flexibility to market at a higher rate So I'll withdraw.
Oh, you withdraw. Okay. Okay.
Let's see what kind of progress we make here.
You're withdrawing on having the
Have it
discussion
as
on
an agendized item.
the bonus.
Yeah, because at this point, she's able to do what I was requesting, which is be able to market at a higher level. And we are having some success. So maybe now with the increased marketing efforts, we'll have greater success.
Okay, great.
Board?
Thank you.
Fine? Everyone's fine? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Madam DA.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Board. I just wanted to remind the board and the public, because the DA was not here during the presentation, that again, the data that we presented today was a snapshot for the deputy DA based on the MOU for each county as well as the class specifications, and it did not consider temporary alternative hiring practices. However, we also wanted to highlight that this board's action is making a positive impact. And if there are any other further questions, we would be more than happy to answer them. So thank you.
Good use of the time today and it's very helpful in moving the ball along. Thank you, everybody.
Alex, I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
I'm just curious, I don't even know if it's published or not, but the recruit or the retention portion, so we got to see what ours is. Do we have access to Tulare or Fresno County's retention as well? I'm just asking in case there's just a trend in general as opposed to specifically our trend.
So on each of the website, as DA Hacker pointed out, it would say first, for example, now hiring at a base salary, and it will have a different amount that's what's published in the class specs as well as the job bid that is in front of you. However, what is not reflected on the website is how they're achieving it, which was previously discussed as hiring a DA1 with that kind of experience at something of a DA3. But I did also want to point out for this board's information that our DA2, 3, and 4 positions are very competitive compared to other counties' DA2, 3, and 4 positions, and even at higher salaries. So even with the DA1 being hired at a different rate in other counties at a temporary basis, we affirm that we are still very competitive and at a higher rate, especially when you consider our benefits packages for these positions.
I guess what I'm asking is more of a macro approach, which is the 70% of people that have been here 10 years and below in this county as it reflects to, say, Tulare County or Fresno County.
I believe we can look for that information. I don't have it in front of me today, but we'll be more than happy to address your comment at a later time if that's okay.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Hey, thank you. Good work, everybody. All right. Board member announcements, Supervisor Nails?
Thank you. It's getting late. Continue to be engaged with Tulare Lake issues. Kings Waste and Recycling held a meeting on the 26th. New rates were adopted, $65 a ton for municipal solid waste, $75 a ton for construction demolition material, and $55 for the blue can recycled commodities. The 2023-2024 budget was approved. 136,000 tons were processed in the 22-23 fiscal year, compared to 132,000 tons from the previous year. And I have a lot of other numbers there as well. But the master plan for aging meeting kind of wrapped up the housing needs for seniors, and also touched on the caregiving needs for that population. A presentation of the plan is being proposed for October 19th, Thursday, from 9 to 12 at the Wyndham Hotel in Visalia. And so that is tentatively set for that date. The South Fork Kings special meeting held on Thursday, the 27th, was held in Lemoore. The proposed $20 a ton, $20 an acre assessment failed the Prop 218 election. With the entire district of 60,000 acres were involved. 36,000 or almost 37,000 acres ballots were returned. 20,000 acres voted no, 16,000 supported the assessment. So we're going to meet on Friday and try to figure out fiscally what we can do in the future. On the sad note, Hugh Hanley, who served as the 22 years as the Ag Commissioner and Weights and Sealer of Weights and Measures, passed away in June. He attended Yuba Community College as well as a Fresno State University graduate, and may he rest in peace. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Supervisor Nails. Supervisor Fagundes.
All I have is easy to recycle, as Supervisor Neves stated, and He's elaborated on that, so that's all I have.
Thanks, Supervisor. Supervisor Robinson.
I spent last Thursday and Friday at CSAC, the California State Assembly of Counties in Sacramento, which was my final new supervisor deal. So that was a rewarding experience, and I applaud CSAC for having that program. Thank you.
Thanks, Supervisor. Just quickly, I want to say thank you to the departments and personnel that helped remove the graffiti at the Home Garden Community Park. Someone, I believe someone from out of town came, made a huge mess of that beautiful wall. And I know it was a challenge for the county to get out there and remove it, but I drove by there last Tuesday and it was very nice to see that wall look brand new. I don't know how you guys did it with the kind of material on, or the construction of that wall. It had to be difficult, and it was the most graffiti I've seen in a long time. So thank you to everyone who went out there and helped with that. Kyria.
For board correspondence, your board received correspondence dated July 26th from Tulare Lake Reclamation District regarding all the mail ballot election that will be conducted on November 14th of this year. Your board also received correspondence dated July 27th from the South Fork Kings Groundwater Sustainability Agency regarding a notice of proposed amendment of groundwater. Your board also received a notice and agenda on July 27th from the Central Valley Regional Water Quality Control Board for a meeting that will be held on August 10th. For upcoming events, the Kings County Library will be hosting a free Peanuts Playhouse show on August 1st at 11 a.m. at the Avenel Branch Library and 2:30 p.m. at the Kettleman City Branch Library. Lemoore Police Department will host their first Cars and Cops car show on August 5th at the Lemoore Sports Complex from 9 to 1. There will be a Student Success Resource Fair on Sunday, August 6th from 12 to 3 at the Longfield Center located in Hanford. There will be free food resources for students. The City of Avenel is also hosting a kids karate class ages 6 to 3 beginning August 21st. The Lemoore Lions Club will be hosting its annual Brew Fest on August 26th from 5 to 9 at the Lemoore Lions Park. Also save the date for the ribbon cutting of the Kings Building on August 30th from 9 to 1. This will be open to the public. And lastly, there will be links for Life Pink Passion Picnic on Tuesday, October 17th. Doors open at 10:30 and tickets are $35. They must be purchased in advance. 100% of the proceeds stay in Kings County and provide direct services. For upcoming agenda items on August 8th, we will be having our budget hearings that morning following the agendas. So administration has 3 items: an ARPA agreement from AKRCD, a final budget hearings and photo contest winner award and presentation. Health has 2 items: resolution proclaiming National Breastfeeding Month and advanced step higher. HSA has an advanced step higher for social service supervisor, and JTO has a local board recertification application. And lastly, Public Works has 3 items on surplus vehicles, fleet vehicle purchase, and board improvement project approval contract. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The board will next go into closed session. Items are agendized. We're going to adjourn, but let everyone know that we're going to come right back. We got one more special meeting of the Board of Supervisors for an issue regarding the flood emergency. So do you need a minute to log off and re-log on, or are we going to keep going on this same link? Okay, the board will stand adjourned. And now the board will come back for a special meeting Tuesday, August 1st, 2023. The time is 11:24. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Joe Nevs.
Here.
Richard Valley.
Here.
Doug Verboon is absent. Rusty Robinson.
Yes.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
4 members in attendance. Thank you. Unscheduled appearances, anybody? Okay, closing it out. Seeing none, we'll go to the agenda item from administration. Morning.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Again, Matthew Boyette, Kings County Administration. So before your board this morning is a 5th order in response of the local emergency due to flood here in the county. So on March 14th, your board declared the local emergency due to flood, and over the course of the past several months have issued a number of orders, both regulating various flows of that flood as well as allowing and limiting access in various parts of the waterways and water bodies here in the county as the flood evolves and we learn more about the activity of what is going on in our rivers and waterways. So with that, as the conditions continue to evolve and as flows continue to decrease, a fifth order is brought before your board for consideration that will allow public access in and on the Kings River, the Tule River, the Cross Creek Canal, and any other waterway within the county's jurisdiction. It'll also allow public access to the levees and parks that abut the river for recreational purposes. This fifth order will also delegate authority to the Director of Emergency Services to take further action as deemed necessary to either limit or allow further public access in and around the county's waterways during the course of this emergency. With that, just wanted to clarify that the area of the Tulare Lake is still closed off to public access because it is on private property. And, landowners are excluded from the provisions of this order for business-related purposes. However, recreational activities on the Tulare Lake are still strictly prohibited by all. So this fifth order here is kind of consistent with what Fresno and Tulare counties are doing, as it is my understanding that they have opened up portions of their rivers as of today. So with that, that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Sheriff?
Thank you, Matt. So Friday, I text Kyria because both the Tulare Sheriff and Fresno Sheriff had texted me and said, hey, we're opening Tuesday. And I was like, man, we're going to get this on the agenda. So appreciate Kyria and Matt and County Council working this weekend and getting this on the agenda for today. They are opening the Fresno portion and Tulare portion of the Kings River today. And now I don't know if it's gone out yet, but at some point today, that announcement will come out effective today. And so we've gone out, we looked at the river. Abraham Valencia and I went out yesterday. There's one area of concern at the Last Chance Weir, which is by the Kings Country Club. Ironically, there's debris in the weir, a lot of debris, but the debris was put back in and it was a little confusing. So I called the manager and he's like, yeah, he goes, the damage to the weir prevented us from putting the boards in. So we actually had to call the contractor and ask them to put the debris back in the weir to divert water through the other channel. So that's interesting. When people float in the Kings River, they have to get out around that weir to make it to Layton. They usually start at 43 and then they get out around that weir and get out at the Layton Fresno County side. And so there's a concern there because there's about a 10-foot wall where the water has washed out the natural area where people get out of the river to get around the weir. However, right around the bend from that is another area of a sandy, because the water levels have dropped enough, there's a sandy beach. And there's actually a photo in the EOC drive if anybody cares to see it. We had it, Abraham took some drone footage of the area yesterday. It's the one area of concern that we still do have. I like the language in the document where we can make adjustments if we need to. The Last Chance Ditch Company manager said, look, we'd rather see this thing just close for the season because we know that that weir is an issue and there's some damage there. However, whatever the board decides, we'll obviously work around. We have our water rescue team, we have our dive team, we have our boating enforcement team. It's all one team, so I don't want to confuse you guys thinking I had three of those. It's all the same people. But we'll obviously, if the board chooses to open today, we'll make sure that they're out there and directing people where to get out in a safe manner. So that way we make sure we don't have any issues around the weir. And then if we do start to see some issues, we'll obviously work with this language to make sure that we shut down, above that weir to floating if we need to. So I think this language works. There was a request from Dave Merritt to your board that he sent in writing to myself and Supervisor Raboon, where he would like some of the levy language changed because when you read the ordinance, it makes it sound like that the levees are open to the public, which is not true. We don't control the levees. Those are private property. Those are controlled by those irrigation districts. And so he would like the levy language either changed or removed so it doesn't appear that the board is authorizing people to get onto private property. And so that was his request, is to remove that levy language if the board chooses to open the waterways. So the challenge that we have in Kings County is the Kings River in, that northern portion of the county is the county line. So with Fresno opening on their side, we will have people getting in on the Fresno County side that end up in the Kings County side. So they will legally get into the river on the Fresno County side. So it would be a challenge not to open the river, but I do like the language that was created in that if we do have to close a portion because it's too dangerous for floating, we can do that, but time will tell on that. And so I just wanted to report that out to your board today, that those two things that we can work around if your board does support opening the river today in conjunction with Fresno and Tulare County.
Do you have a recommendation? I thought we were going to get a recommendation from you on
Right.
whether
So-
to open it.
My recommendation would be to open. I am worried about that weir. We will have people out there, but I think with the language that allows, without having to come back, to another Tuesday meeting, the language that allows us to immediately shut down that portion if we need to. It's Tuesday. We know that we generally don't get a lot of people out there during the week. It's on the weekends. And so we have a couple days to work through it. So I'm okay with opening. I just want to be on the record to know that that is an area of concern still, and that might be an area that we need to shut down floating at least down that far. There's plenty of other spots where people do get out above that, but that's a really common place for people to go around that weir. And so we'll have to closely monitor that, and we might have to make some adjustments, but I am okay opening.
Okay. Is there anything that we could do to be proactive in warning about, the place you're used to getting out at is not available, whether it's signage or some funds we could reimburse you for or we
Yeah,
ask for it to.
probably, and in the past, we've worked with, Dominic is still here. We've worked with, obviously, the Public Works Department to get signage out there about the river being closed. So I'm sure we could work on some signage. The challenge is the way the waterway works is if you legally get into the water, there's a certain foot, like a 30-foot range where you can be on an embankment where it's not private property, but you go beyond that and now you're on private property. The area that people will be traversing is technically private property owned by the Last Chance Ditch Company. They've historically allowed people to move across their property. They're afraid of doing their own signage because they don't want to open the door for liability where it's like, oh yeah, we put signage up, get out here. And now all of a sudden, if it doesn't work out, they're on the hook for it. So it's private property where people are going to be going across because you have to get out further up from the weir. Previously, they were just traversing across the public access area, but in this case, it will be private property. And they don't want to open the door for that liability. But they're also not, in light of the safety mechanism that's required, they understand that people will be going across their property, but they're not giving permission for them to do so. It's just they understand that from the public safety perspective, we have to protect people from going into that weir. And if that means diverting people above it, then so be it. So it's a little bit of a dicey.
Which takes me away from my next thought, which was that picture that you mentioned that's on the drive that shows if that's something we can put in a press release and on social media, but maybe that company doesn't want us promoting, hey, get out on private property.
Right. I think, I'd like to tell people like, hey, it's probably still not safe to float if you don't have a previously, permission from a property owner to access your property to safely exit, in that area. It's just one of those things. Now, I mentioned the other spot where there's a sand barge. And if you have a second, Carrie, if you could pull it up, it's easier for me I'm a visual learner. So if I can show you on the picture.
No, thank you.
There's actually a spot that they would still be in the public right-of-way area that isn't on private property. It's just a little bit closer to the weir than historically we've seen people need to get out at. Go to EOC Drive, winter storm 2023, Last Chance Weir with yesterday's date.
Yeah, I think anything we can do there, I'm in agreement with you because the kids don't know. I mean,
No.
going back to the 80s, we come from Corcoran and just pull over. Hey, jump in with a floaty. We don't know what's available or not. We're just a bunch of dumb kids going down that river.
Yeah. Yeah. It's popular, and we're not trying to be big government and take that away from folks, but it will take a little bit of resources to make sure we keep people safe.
The one from 731?
Yes,
The video or the photo?
photos are easier. The video shows like the actual cliff face where people normally got out, but you can see it from the photos as well. Perfect. That's a perfect view right there. If you can go back to expanded. Okay, so yeah, right, that zoom out just a hair. So you can see that little sandy area. Okay, so on the left, last chance weir, you can see what looks like a road. That's where people would normally get out along that sandbank. But what's a little deceiving from this photo is that sandbank next to the trees there, that's 10 to 12 feet of a straight down cliff. When you get to the corner area, that sandbank, I walked down there yesterday. You can get onto that sandbank right there in the lower left hand of the corner. It's just a little bit closer to the weir than we would generally like. In the upper right-hand corner of the weir, you can see that sandy area. You could actually see my truck in the upper right-hand corner.
Oh, yeah.
If you get out in that spot there, you just have to walk across the grass and you can get right back in the sandbank just below the weir. It's a little bit longer of a trek, but that would actually be the safest spot. And so ideally that would be the safest spot for them to just shoot straight across. There's some sticks and brush and things like that. But once you get a few people through there, it tramples it down pretty quickly. But the lower left corner is the easiest sandbank because the water level has dropped enough where you can literally just sit and get out. The challenge is the water wants to push you to the other side on the golf course side because it has to make a 90-degree turn there. And so it wants to push you across. So you have to be paying attention. If you're on that side of the bank, you can easily get out. But if you're not paying attention, you could end up in the middle, which would push you directly across to the golf course side. So like I said, the language does allow for, us to work with the emergency services director and immediately put in a stopgap measure to put a stop to it. But I think if we can kind of educate some folks and let them know of the danger area and that they really need to be on their toes to make sure that, and we could test it. I could send some staff out to float,
Yeah.
12-pack of beer. And
Right.
I'm sure I'd get some volunteers.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Seriously.
I still, even though the ditch company was like, hey, we just assume you close it for the season, I still do believe that the language that's presented to your board today, that we can work through that. And if we need to shut it down on Saturday because we're seeing some danger situations, we can absolutely do that.
Okay. Thanks, Sheriff. Appreciate the information. To the board, council, you got
I
something?
was going to say that in light of the sheriff's comments and the concerns raised about the reference to the levies, that would be in paragraph 2 of the order. And I've looked at it and we could replace the levy to say, that access will be allowed to the public land and parks that abut the river for recreational.
And I think there might be a second reference in there with a similar language, but yeah, I think that would work too.
We can
Access to
replace levy with public land.
Public lands.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I agree with the parking side. I agree with that. The other part is the avalanche consideration on that sand ridge that kind of scares me. I was always one of those kids that liked to dig a hole and into a cave, and then all of a sudden you have a 10-foot sheer face that can get people in trouble. So it's not just the water, it's the environment.
Yeah, absolutely. And
so I don't know how you add that to the
we could put
the
a
ordinance.
caution tape, around it, obviously, on top and bottom.
Yeah.
We could easily stake it and put some caution tape up. That would be easy to do.
Or just knock it down.
Or just knock it down. Yeah. Yeah. Almost got all the tractors.
Between that and the fire to be able to
Well,
knock
that's
that
true.
down and then.
Maybe we could work with the fire chief because they do have the dozer equipment.
Correct. And they'd be able to.
It would create a safe spot and I'm sure that if I call the manager of the ditch company, they wouldn't be opposed to it. He just didn't have time.
Correct.
It was on their list to do, but he doesn't have time to get over there because they're obviously dealing with other things.
Correct. Yeah, no, that's the only liability that I see is not just from the water side, but also from the sheer environment of that avalanche threat. So
Yeah, makes sense.
if you can address those in the ordinance, I'm okay.
I don't even mind if it's at the board direction. I can just take that on and deal with it
Okay.
on the cliff side to try to mitigate that.
Okay.
working with the fire department or public works department.
So was,
So move, Mr. Chair.
as amended and pointed out by council. Right. Motion by Neves, second by Robinson. Madam Clerk?
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Rusty Robinson.
Yes.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
All right, be careful. Then I believe that takes us to adjournment, right? Yep, adjourned until August 15th,
Oh, August 8th.
August 8th. August 8th, August 15th will be the first meeting held in the multipurpose room.
Correct.